Good afternoon, and welcome to episode 65 of Ken's Counseling Couch. I am your host, Ken Jennings. After another week uh, off last week, as I said in my Discord, I've been feeling uh, kind of crappy recently. Uh, haven't been feeling so good in a few different ways. My back has been acting up a bit, which hasn't been helping me to sit down and willingly sit at a desk for hours on end. That doesn't help, nor does lying in bed, because I have been sick too, so that doesn't help either. But I am trying to reinvigorate myself and my energy in different ways to get back to streaming more often. It's been very hectic with trying to pack, trying to clean, juggle a bunch of other stuff that's been going on. So I do apologize for the lack of shows recently. I have been wanting to stream more in the new year, and it has been not starting off the way I intended to. But today, I figured since I'm one of the few people, uh, it seems, in one of the Facebook groups I've been following the Alex Murdaugh case in, and having watched the Rakita Law and uh, who else was covering? Good Logic was covering the trial too. You get the testimony from the uh, case, and then get the commentary from the different lawyers covering it. Um, by the end of the trial, uh, I still find the case was not proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Uh, the juror that decided to give their interview on Good Morning America for their 15 minutes of fame, uh, like it or hate it, when asked if they thought, when asked about Alex Murdaugh crying, he's like, "I only saw snot." Like, bitch, that you can't just do that. You just can't do that. Like, you just can't make snot appear like that and not cry. Like, you legitimately have to cry. Like, if there's a way to do that, let me know. I will become an expert in doing the snot technique. But to my experience, from having had many people sit across from me, sit in a room with me, talk to me on the phone, and crying, you tend to snot up a bit when you're crying. So, ignoring the that kind of commentary, uh, I still don't find that Jerry truthfully took all the evidence into consideration. Uh, it's my belief, and I'm not the only one that holds it. I truly believe that Alex Murdaugh's rights were violated in that trial, severely violated in that trial. You cannot add all that propensity evidence um, to a case through the financial crimes, in my opinion, and drag all that shit in and expect that not to get, hopefully, addressed on appeal. Oh, he absolutely deserves an appeal. I hope he files for one. I hope he files his notice of appeal if it hasn't been done already. I didn't watch the sentencing because having dealt with Judge Newman for 6 weeks was grating. So, um, and with the jury member getting dismissed on the last day, if they were talking to people about their being on the jury and shit, they fucked up. They were stupid for doing that. You can wait until the trial's over. But like, and if they were talking to people, then they probably deserve to be dismissed. But it has a really bad look to it. Um, and for the jury to go from two not guilty, one undecided, nine guilty, to all guilty within 45 minutes. How much evidence was really discussed or looked over? I mean, jury could take as much or little time as they want. Like, that's their decision. Uh, I mean, it's not my murder case. There's a reason why you can't find the bodies I buried. So I will never be held on trial for it, and there's not enough evidence to connect me allegedly to those killing. So, but also real quick before I forget, Bill, I'm okay. Uh, there, there is, like I said, there's just been stuff going on, uh, but I'm okay generally. I'm trying to do better. It's just been overwhelming with a lot of just trying to manage a lot of stuff with my back pain. So, hey. So from my understanding, Twisted is it sounded like people reported the juror to law enforcement for talking to um, outside of the courtroom about the case, and um, then because I missed that section where they dismissed the juror. Is that he talked to the juror? I don't remember male or female. Talked to people outside of the courtroom that were not involved in the case. Okay, so maybe I do need to rewatch that part. So, uh, but if that's the case, if they were strictly talking to law enforcement, were they initiators of the conversation? I would need to rewatch that because I'm missing out part of that. It still has a bad look in my opinion. But one of the things that has been probably the most irritating throughout this whole situation, and I'm a glutton for punishment apparently because I'm the one doing it to myself by by going and participating on Facebook in these groups. Um, so I mean, I'm putting myself in these positions, but let's see if I can find some. I know I took screenshots on my phone, but it would take a while to probably pull them up. Uh, but one of the most common things that was underlying a lot of the testimony, or not testimony, was underlying the commentary on Facebook. Let me rephrase that. One of the things that underlied a lot of the commentary on Facebook was, oh, he's definitely guilty. Well, how do you know that? Well, I watched this part of the trial, or I know about this, or this is the case. And a common thread that came in, especially on the last day or two of trial, I kept seeing people talking about, he had hours to hide evidence. And I'm like, no, you had like 10 to 15 minutes to hide evidence. I think someone did the actual math from the ending of the video or the ending of the last activity on the phone, which apparently my phone being next to me means I'm dead right now because I'm not on it. Even though I'm on my phone like a 15-year-old girl when I'm not streaming or doing work or whatever. From that to the time that he leaves is like 17 minutes. And I'm sorry, I know I'm in my 30s and I'm not in the best shape because of my back and shit. Going that far, even when I was in good shape, murdering my wife and son, going from there to there, going from point A to point B, somehow, like, the lack of understanding of forensics is like amazing to me. Is yes, we can just use the hose to spray off the blood. And I'm like, no, because the hemoglobin staining will remain. And unless you clean stained shit, and this is your pro tip, this is your pro homicide tip for the day, pay attention. Pro homicide, if you're going to kill people, if you're going to commit a crime, right? If you're going to commit a crime and you're going to leave behind blood evidence, you need to use, or even DNA evidence, you need to use something that has an oxidizing agent in it, like oxygenated bleach. Oxygenated bleach will destroy the hemoglobin. It will use the hemoglobin because luminol and other things like it use hemoglobin to detect remaining like trace evidence of blood. But if you use oxygenated bleach, you cannot find trace evidence of blood. So he can't just spray off at the kennels or just rinse his fucking clothes off. The fucking trace evidence would still be there unless you use an oxygenated bleach. It's not going to be on the fucking golf cart unless you scrub the shit down with bleach. Even if you washed it off, there's still going to be trace amounts on there detectable with luminol and other shit like it. You have to scrub that shit down with the oxidizing agent, like oxygenated bleach or something similar, or a higher percentage, like hydrogen peroxide, something to use up and oxidize the hemoglobin. because hemoglobin likes oxygen, so it binds to it, which doesn't allow the luminol to find the evidence of it. That's how it works. Don't ask me why I know that. So you have all that. So unless he was really good at cleaning up the crime scene, not tracking shit through, not like, hiding clothes, because like, for example, oh, he could have left the clothes in the house. Bitch, if I murder someone and I'm calling the police, I'm expecting them to search my house. They're gonna find them in my house. They didn't know the police weren't gonna search his house. You can't hope that you're uh, being a prosecutor or having weight in the county is going to keep them from searching your house. Their incompetence kept them from searching the house. That's not a discuss. You can't use that as a fallback. That's not a good way to plan a murder. Like, just the insanity of, you know, all this shit is insane. And then, let's not even be, even if we exclude SLED, the investigation, the police fucking up all the things they fucked up, right? Because let's, I start all this shit from the point of innocent until proven guilty. And even now, I still believe there's a strong pointing of innocence, because I'm good, but I'm not that good. I'm smart. Don't get me wrong. I'm decently smart. I'll give myself some credit. I'll be conceited for a moment. I'm decently smart. I could probably plan a murder, probably would still get caught for it. Even though most murders get caught or don't get caught, generally it's like homicide catch rates aren't that great, especially if it gets cold. But if it goes beyond so many days and you don't find them, you're not really finding them. But if I'm truly going to plan something out, if I'm truly as devious, like, because on one hand, Alex Murdaugh is a fucking idiot. He got caught with all this, but he's beg, bargain, stealing an attic. He's failing to plan a suicide attempt. He's doing all this. He's either a cunning genius who fucks up all but the murder, or he's extremely stupid and perfects, he's extremely stupid, but pulls off an almost perfect murder of his wife. And so, like, those two don't mesh well. Come on. Like, you just can't, like, the way that works. And, like, let me see if I can find some examples, because there's some, like, good examples. One of the things, for example, in this private group I'm in, because unfortunately I'm using my personal account in here, so um, there was a post recently about the Buster collapsing after leaving the courtroom, and like within like the first few comments of this post, it's, oh, it's because Buster's guilty for killing Stephen Smith, and people are just jumping all over it. I have yet to watch any of these documentaries or listen to any of these podcasts, because I didn't want to taint my view of the case, because I knew exactly what would happen if I did. I have the potential to taint my view of the case. Based on what I've seen in the case, what was shown at trial, especially the stuff that was included or excluded. Say, oh, Phil, I'm okay with you. Say, or are you talking about someone else? Say, I don't know if you're talking about me, Phil, or you're talking about someone else, Phil. I love you, Phil. Say, I love you, Phil. So I have no problems with you. If I have messaged you or responded to you, that's because A, my phone's been being shit about emails and syncing and my Discord notifications, and B, I've been a bit out of it, so I haven't really been checking my Discord as much. So yeah, they found him being guilty of being an asshole lawyer, which he absolutely was. He was a horrible person who stole money. Guilty of murder. I don't see. I do not see it. And let's see if I can find. Let's see. If I can find that section of video. I had some trouble pulling up some of this stuff. Let's see here. Is this it? Give me 1 second. Well, I pull that up. All right, here we go. We'll pull that up in just a second. Well, I have that ready. Let's see. Holy shit, I didn't know about that. Apparently, a woman yesterday in Texas stabbed her 5 children. 3 are dead, 2 are injured. CPS worker made an unannounced visit to the home of the children, called for police. She does not have custody and was having unsupervised visits. The children were stabbed while a CPS worker was on scene. Holy shit. Okay, that's interesting. So, also, upon some of the more interesting stuff that I was seeing with the case has been the body language reading, which I'll first tell you, when I'm interpreting body language, I'm not doing it as like a body language expert. I'm doing it as body language I see consistent with things I see doing therapy. Not that, oh, this little micro, like, nah, say, I don't, no, I'm not doing that. So when I'm saying this is consistent with body language I see, this is what I'm seeing, like someone who's upset, someone who's tired, someone who's angry, someone who's depressed, things like that are consistent. Say, but one of the things that I was arguing on Facebook, for example, talking about Alex Murdaugh, was the side of the road shooting incident. When Alex was testifying about that and about why he was doing it and all those things, to me, he sounded severely depressed at the time. And his logic and thought process was consistent to me with depression and suicidal ideation, which would make sense for someone trying to kill themselves and why someone would plan their own suicide, even if they fucked it up. So, with that, I felt like he was truly depressed. Whether he was depressed because he's guilty, he killed his wife and son, or he's depressed because his wife and son were horrifically murdered and he came across their horribly disfigured bodies, I still don't care at that point. But to me, there was depression. A common thing I've seen everyone in these groups, or almost everyone in these groups, is he's such a narcissist. He's a perfect actor. He's a lawyer of 30 years. He knows how to fake emotion. I'm like, bitch, I'm a therapist and I can't fake emotion that well. Like, I'm not that good at faking emotion on certain things. I get called on all the time, but I see it all the time. But I don't get it. I don't get why there is such a hatred and insight. Like, there's such this desire to pin these murders on Alex Murdaugh, when to me, there's not enough evidence to show he actually did do it. You know, they give him all the credit for being this amazing murder planner. Like, he's amazing. He can scam people out of money, which you can scam people out of money really easy because most people are, remember, if we use IQ as a measure of intelligence, most people are around 100, the average intelligence. So that means some are below average, some are above average, right? So the average person's around 100 IQ. So the average person can be conned, right? It's not that hard to con people out of money, especially if you're a big lawyer, people trust you, you're in a position of power. It's why in the field of law and in the field of medicine and in the field of therapy and mental health, when you're put in a position, people, whether you want them to or not, look at you and put respect in the power and in the degrees and in the certifications. That's one of the most important things. Having a position like that is not abusing that, because it's really easy to abuse it, and people to trust you without any question. They will say, you, if you tell them X, motherfucker, they will do X without any question. If you don't establish a foundation to say, I am no better than you. That's pretty much a conversation I have with all my therapy patients. Is, I am an equal to you. I am no better because I have a degree. And you're paying to talk to me, or you're sitting here forced to talk to me for whatever reason. Doesn't mean I'm any better than you. I'm just another person. I'm just a person that went to school for a couple years longer than most people. And they gave me a fancy little piece of paper with my name on it. And it helps me talk to you better to deal with these things. That's about all it is. All I can do is talk a little bit better. That doesn't mean I'm any better than you. I'm full of flaws. I'm full of errors. I'm definitely not a perfect human being. So when I do that, I make sure that they're free to challenge me they're free to push back, because that's how I get really good therapy, by letting them push back, by letting them challenge me. Because I could shut them down and be like, well, if you're going to, if you're going to be defensive like this, maybe I'm not the right therapist for you. Or maybe I'm not, if I was a lawyer, if you're not going to take my advice, I'm not, maybe this isn't the right, I'm not the right lawyer for you. Like, it's really easy to twist and manipulate people who are desperate, who are needing help, especially people who are personal injury attorneys. They've been maimed, disfigured, hurt, people taken away from them from car accidents or industrial accidents or slips and falls. People die from slips and falls, believe it or not. So they're desperate. They want help. You're the person who's helping them. No different than someone depressed or sad or suicidal or relationship issues coming to me and saying, I need help. You're in a position to exploit them if you want to. And sometimes you can exploit them without intending to, because it happens. Believe it or not, it can happen. Tracy could back me up on that. It can happen. You can accidentally exploit or use your position of power in a negative way if you're not careful about it. You have to make sure you establish clear boundaries in those relationships. Okay. For example, let's go back to let's see here. Yeah, appeal to authority. Yeah, that's what it was. So, for example, let me go to this. I can't pull it up because I'll dox myself if I do, because it's my personal Facebook page, right? This is a comment in the one group. Why can't the DA and defense agree to no appeals? Since Alex Murdaugh will be in prison for the rest of his life, whether for murder or embezzlement. How will Alex Murdaugh get money for attorney's fee? Will the taxpayers pick up the tab also? Such a waste of taxpayer money. This person is implying that Alex Murdaugh should give up his right to appeal. So let's just give up the right to appeal. You don't need to appeal. There's no need to appeal. We think you're guilty of murder. The jury found you guilty of murder. There's no need to appeal. We never get this wrong, right? No one ever gets it wrong, right? And it's funny looking and reading it, how these comments, a lot of people are, saying he can't appeal. They can get money this way, this or that. And why would he appeal? Hey, if it was me, I want my name cleared. I don't care if it costs me every penny. I'm still going to spend my time in jail. I don't want to be considered the murderer of my wife and son, ever. I don't care how much I hate my wife, how much I would hate my kids. Would never kill them. This is the last thing you do. Right. Right. If I skim to another comment here. People talking about the money that was hidden. Also, apparently, the guy that was the juror that's, again, this is from the group. One of the people, that juror that spoke out on Good Morning America, apparently was involved somehow, related to a car accident that killed a friend of someone who commented on this thing. They said the guy caused the accident. Some guy caused the car accident, that the juror had a house party. This person left the party, wrecked in a ditch on the road, where the juror and his brother helped pull out the guy and then went back on the road. So this guy was drunk, ultimately killing their daughter and injuring their mom, son, and younger cousin, not even 10 minutes later. So, assuming that's true, again, if it's not, then it's some old made up shit. If it is, if I take them at their word, that's some interesting thing to have on the jury. I don't know how that didn't get screened out. Let's see here. Some more of these fun conversations here. But I got into some really fun arguments in this group during the case, because and people find it funny that the juror was dismissed. They're like, oh, thank God that this juror was dismissed and that Alex was able to be found guilty. Yeah, I hope he gets an appeal. I hope he appeals, and I hope his conviction's overturned and he's given a fair trial, because I do not believe he was given a fair trial. His Fifth Amendment right was violated. His Sixth Amendment right was violated. the fact that they drug in propensity evidence through the financial crimes. They were not used just to prove murder, because the case could have been not 6 weeks long. So I hope he wins his appeal. I still think he's a horrible fucking person. I still think he's a bad person. I do not think he got a fair trial. And I think and it's the defense's fault for not raising it to dismiss to have the judge replaced, considering the judge's own son died 3 weeks prior to the start of the trial. So do you see where there's problems in the judgment here? The defense should have motioned for a change of venue. They didn't, so that's not preserved for appeal. Not my fault. But for the things that they did preserve, its Fifth Amendment right and Sixth Amendment rights were violated. Say, okay, here's a good one. This is on that Facebook group. I love this Facebook group. Is both infuriating as shit, funny, and because sometimes you'll have a good conversation with someone. Like, it's kind of cool. You have some nice back and forth. Other times, I wish I was Paul because of the stress in that if Alex or whoever did it, just my head hurts, right? They said, so if Alex, I'm summarizing some of it. So if Alex gets an appeal, how will that work with everyone in the county, everyone in the country knowing about this case? Also, even if you take out financials, people won't forget what a liar he is. So what's going to change? He has so many other charges will keep him in jail. What does an appeal do, really? So we'll hear the same old evidence, or maybe they'll look for more, like the divorce Maggie supposedly was wanting, and her wanting someone to go through the finances. But me, it's a waste of time, and he's already going to jail for finances. And who knows what other cases he will be guilty of. So let's see here. Someone commented and said appeals don't rehear the case, they overturn it. They look for discrepancies, the defendant's rights, access to overturn a decision is low, which is true. They said, oh, the OP said, oh, okay, I hope he loses that too. I want to see him in maximum security forever. Someone rational commented, because the judge still never let the financial crimes in and roadside shooting into trial, I see appeal of a good chance of getting granted. And then someone said 1% chance for murder convictions. Someone else said, no way his testimony also changed appeal dynamics. Or maybe it's 2% for murder convictions. Even if a defendant testifies, appeal still be granted. No shit. Let's see. What else is here? No new evidence can be brought in. Yeah, well, if they grant a retrial, they would. I would be the best thing. It'd be the funniest thing to see is if they grant an appeal and overturn the conviction and somehow they can attach jeopardy to it. If jeopardy attaches, he walks on the murders and there's no retrial. That would be funny to me. Because this, to me, on a societal level, is the most disgusting thing, seeing just no one's given the innocent until proven guilty anymore. Someone gets arrested. Oh, what'd they do? Not what are they accused of doing? Or, oh, they're probably guilty. Okay, you're not going to give them, well, there's, and then the argument would be, well, there's innocent, there's the court of public opinion and the court of law. This is the court of public opinion. No shit, the public opinion should be, if you're going to put someone in jail for years, decades, or their life, or kill them, you should give them every benefit of the doubt that they did not do it. I even made the argument in one of my posts, I think I did, if I'm remembering correctly, is even if someone, this is different than a murder, is if you have a video of someone robbing a bank or robbing a gas station, like let's say someone robs a gas station, walks in, mask on, or let's just say no mask, because they run in, gun, point at the clerk, rob the clerk, take the money out of the register, take him out, license plate, face, everything's caught on camera, right? Seems like a clear crime. They obviously did it. We know it's John Smith. We know they drive a Chevy Corolla from 1997. We saw them drive from here. We follow traffic cameras back to their house, and it's all good, right? It should be clear cut crime, right? He's obviously guilty, right? No, because what you didn't know is the guy who's robbing the 7-Eleven, someone at home is holding a gun to his wife and son. And if he's not back in 15 minutes, he will kill them. So now he's operating under duress. You can't use duress as a defense for murder. You can use duress as a defense for other crimes, right? Which you may not hear about the duress, him being under duress at time, right? How does he prove he's under duress? Well, maybe that takes time to get to trial. Maybe that comes up in the investigation. But because the security camera shit goes to the media, and because the traffic cameras go to the media, he's guilty to everyone else, right? He's automatically guilty. No one considers the man's duress defense in this hypothetical. No one considers him innocent because his wife and child were being held hostage, right? That's what we should be doing, is we should be considering people innocent until proven guilty. There are plenty of innocent people in jail, Girl Scout. I think Alex is an innocent person for murder in jail. Just because he was at the kennels doesn't mean he murdered him. Just because he had the fine, because the motive they tried to use with the financial shit, trying to prove that as a motive, is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. I do agree with Rakita on that. That was one of the dumbest motives I've ever heard in my entire fucking life. Is that does not make any sense for a motive to kill your family. I'm gonna kill 2/3 of my family by killing my wife and one of my sons, but not my other son. I'm not gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill my wife and other son because my son was gonna go to jail for crime because of the boat case. Okay, that makes sense. No, that makes no sense. Or, oh, my wife is going to catch me because I'm an addict and I've stolen a shitload of money. That still doesn't make sense. The evidence is consistent with, having both seen and dealt with people who have drug issues in personal and professional life, and seeing it in a bunch of other contexts. Do people addicted to drugs and people who steal money do a bunch of other stupid shit? Do other crimes? Yes, they do. Murder? Not so much, right? They think they wanted to do the murder case first because it was what everyone was talking about. So that's my opinion. So, 17 minutes isn't that much time to clean up a murder scene, in my opinion, right? That's my opinion. I couldn't clean up a murder scene in 17 minutes, not one as bloody and gruesome and horrific as that, let alone bringing 2 of my own firearms to the scene. When, if have been a prosecutor in that area, you know where to find illegal guns, or how to get guns with no serial numbers, or at least how to get a gun that doesn't tie back to you. You like, uh, like there's just so many stupid things. Oh yeah, the speedy trial thing. That's why, which was truthfully a smart thing for him to do, because the case could have taken years to get done, right? Pushing for a speedy trial probably worked in their favor. So, yeah, the best part of the theory was that it was to delay his financial persecution. Uh, it was to delay the vote case for a month. I'm going to kill my wife inside and cause a whole nother investigation to get instead of filing a motion to continue. Come on. I mean, the state has a really shitty case when the AG comes down from the state to take part in questioning a witness. I'm just saying, they're either doing it for fame or because their prosecutor fucked up the cross exam of Alex, which was the funniest thing. They wasted a whole day of testimony on this cross for stupid shit that was pointless. The only reason they did that was to bring it into the financial case. That's all they did, because no matter what, they could most likely bring, unless it's thrown out at trial or it appeals, his cross-exam questioning and anything related to financial questioning gets thrown out because it wasn't allowed, then it's different. But if it doesn't, then they just use that to bring it into the financial case, which helps them secure a conviction. Is basically all they did. So that's just the logic that makes no fucking sense. Makes no sense. And then if he's this, and he's not a bad lawyer, if he was the fucking rainmaker for the firm, which it sounded like he brought in all the big clients, he brought in all the good money, you cannot expect him to be stupid enough to do it that way. It just doesn't add up. It does not make sense. Clearly, does not make sense. Plus, the state's own evidence showed Alex being distanced from the phone of Maggie by like half a mile from the last interaction to the starting of the vehicle or whatever it was, being like a half a mile. That's pretty hard to pull off because those are fucking data and information. You cannot fabricate that evidence, like unless he got into OnStar. And here's my favorite part about all this too, is being part of these groups, is leading up to the jury, like leading up in the closing arguments and shit. I saw more than one post and thread of comments about if he gets not guilty, then the jury was probably bought off, or if it was a mistrial, the jury was probably bought off, or, you know, because he's so corrupt in the area that maybe his corruption got into the jury too. And I asked the question of, if he's found guilty, do you believe the same thing, that the state made sure that the people were bought off? Or if he's found not guilty, that we just go, a jury of his peers found him not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of killing his wife and son? Or do we never see that? Because that was my problem, is not many people in this group will be willing to allow the rational thought of maybe a jury of his peers found him not guilty. Instead, they jump to, oh, it must be corruption. The jury must be bought off. Someone got on the jury on purpose to do this. Like, it doesn't add up. Like, it just doesn't click. Sorry, radioactive Girl Scout. I just disagree with you on that one. I'll disagree with this statement. I'm going to disagree with this. Everyone's stepping for Alex and making up ridiculous scenarios that could have happened, yet I think the prosecution was reaching. Here's the point, is it's not my job to make up scenarios. Is that the prosecution has the burden instilled by our founding principles and guiding documents and jurisprudence to establish beyond a reasonable doubt, which is effectively outside of shit like aliens abducted him and aliens came down and killed him. It's basically beyond all doubt that you can prove, beyond all doubt, that and part of the research, and I'll sidetrack real quick, part of the research I was doing into jury psychology is I came across a couple law articles talking about the use of the phrase common sense in jury instructions regarding reasonable doubt. And there is a reason several states and several areas do not allow the use of the word common sense when talking about reasonable doubt because of issues relating to it. Now, it's used in other areas relating to law and jury deliberations, but especially relating to reasonable doubt. I think California removed it from their jury instructions because, one, there's no uniform definition of common sense, and two, when talking about reasonable doubt as it pertains to shit like murder, you can't just use common sense. Reasonable doubt is effectively 99% or more certainty. Is if I have the reasonable doubt that, and for example, while Nick was covering it and while Good Logic was covering it, and while a couple of people were covering it and flipping back and forth, Andrew Bronker presented a theory about someone relating and wanting revenge with the boat case. Came up, Paul had a gun. They brought their own shotgun. Paul had his gun down by the kennels. There were death threats, and that it was reasonable, and there was a reasonable explanation that explained the evidence, kind of better than the state's evidence. Even at this point, I still think the evidence applies. Is there still a reasonable explanation that says it was not Alex? There is a reasonable doubt in the fact that Alex was distanced a half a mile from the last interaction of the phone to his starting of the vehicle. And there was like a 30-second difference, if that. I have to go look at the timeline because I don't have it available. But I remember it is you have this short time frame where there's a half a mile difference or more. I think it was almost 3/4 of a mile between the phone of Maggie's having a user interaction and the vehicle starting. That right there is reasonable doubt. Just that I could say is reasonable doubt to vote him not guilty. I was watching through the commentary because A, watching the trial by itself was boring, and B, hearing even the commentators talking about it doesn't inform my opinion. I was watching the trial. I like hearing what other people say about it because it interests me in a way that I can say, A, this is what other people think about it that are opposite. A, because I was having myself, and here's how I was being as fair as possible. Not only was I exposing myself to commentators on one side, I was exposing myself to the community on Facebook on the other side to hear people who were so into it, they've watched every documentary, they've been following the case every moment since Maggie and Paul died. They know they think they know absolutely everything, all the evidence of everything that's going on, talking about shit that wasn't even presented at trial. They know so much stuff. So I'm hearing that on one side, and on the other side, I'm hearing people commenting on it from the trial. So I'm balancing out my take of the information, and I'm not just using and parroting what other people say. I can and do think for myself. And part of me thinking for myself is these two things being separated. If I can't start my vehicle and move it and have the phone interaction happen half a mile apart unless I'm in two places at once, that is itself reasonable doubt because there's a doubt to how do these two things happen. And there was no explanation provided. If I use that evidence, I can just use that by itself. I could use that as evidence of reasonable doubt. Because I cannot be in two places at once. How did Alex start the vehicle? Alex manipulate the phone half a mile apart. If you could describe to me my bias, feel free to, but my opinions are my own. More than one educated commenter, an educated lawyer, talked about this case. I think more than half a dozen or more, I think it was almost 9 or 10 different lawyers have talked about this in the different streams and shit, commenting on it. Many of them are in agreement that A, there was not a beyond a reasonable doubt proving it. B, he's still a shitty guy. Everyone's pretty much in agreement with that. And C, many of them are not only in agreement, but are pissed because his rights are violated. So even if he is guilty, why would you let the state violate the rights of the person? Why would it be okay? Why is it okay? Because one of the things I saw in this part of this commentating on this, talking about it, right, is just because they did this or that, it's okay. They justify it because they think he's guilty. Let's put your ass in that defendant's seat. Let's put your ass in that stand, right? Is it still okay to be biased and to violate your right? Let me stir up a national frenzy over you and whatever you're charged with. I don't care if it's shoplifting a candy bar. I will stir up a national conversation about it and make everyone think you're guilty. Now, is it still okay? Is it still okay to violate the rights? Because A, if they really had such a good case on him, why would they do that first? Either they're incompetent or they did it on purpose. If they did it on purpose, they're stupid because they have even though it's a small risk, it increases the risk of overturning the conviction that they hope to get by doing whatever they're doing. And it's stupid. And if I'm a prosecutor, I'd never do something so stupid as to risk overturning one of my convictions. If I make a reasonable error in whatever, that's fine. But doing core basic shit, like testifying on post-arrest silence, by questioning on post-arrest silence, by doing shit like that, by dragging in propensity evidence, by doing all this shit that's going to hurt you at the end. Because the funny thing is like any other case, prosecutor gets blamed. If Alex's case gets overturned on appeal, everyone's going to be like, oh, the defense attorneys and Alex. No one's going to ever question, they fought for him. They took it to appeals. No one's going to ever question the fact that the state's prosecutors are the ones that violate his rights. And so did the judge. But no one will talk about that. My point is if the case is so good, why do that? And B, there was multiple points throughout the entire trial where reasonable doubt was presented, right? So Poopnock says, one thing I would point out about Alex that really sketched me out, though, well, actually, I was on so many drugs that I was lying, and that's how I'm innocent. Well, so one of the things is, and I'm sure if Tracy's still sticking around, is opioid, just addiction in general. Addiction is a nasty, nasty thing. It's a horrible disease, and I truly feel sorry for anyone who has to suffer through it because it's really shitty to have to deal with it. Because I take pain meds for my back, and I have to deal with the fact that if I miss my doses, I start not only feeling my pain, but feeling the side effects of missing the drugs because my body's developed a requirement effectively for me to need them. So I have to taper myself off, right? If I were to come off of them, because I can't just stop. It's like you stop any of them, my body's built a physical dependency on it. Not that I am dependent on it, but my body has physically needs it at this point. It's like, hey, where's the morphine at? And if I don't give it the morphine, it goes, where the fuck is the morphine at, you idiot? Give me the morphine. And so my body freaks the fuck out, basically, right? Addicts will lie to try and cover for all the a lot of times, depending on the addict, there's guilt, there's shame that comes with the addiction. Because Alex started out with a knee. My issues started out with my lower back. Chiropractor fucked my lower back and neck up. 3 back surgeries, bunch of meds. It's a pain in the ass. Thankfully, I don't get a higher euphoria. Like, I take my med as prescribed. I don't do anything more. I have to. Otherwise, I wouldn't get them. But it's very easy. Thankfully, I also have a gene. I did genetic testing or whatever a long time ago, and I have a gene that helps me with the way I metabolize opioids. And apparently that means I don't get high off of them, or it would take a shitload more than I take now to get high off of them. Because I've been on a lot of drugs, opioids wise, and I have no euphoria from any of them ever on any dose I've taken. So that's, to me, like, I wake up from like a post-op surgery. I'm not loopy and shit. I'm just tired. I'm not like euphoric. I don't have pain. Like, that's how it works for me. So it's really kind of weird. But, you get addicted to that feeling, or the pain meds stop working. So you increase the dose, start taking more, you start needing it. And then the amount you're taking stops working. So you need more and more and more and more and more. And you could take really, really, really significant amounts of doses. Like, if I were to give any of you the amount of morphine I take, it would probably put you unconscious and possibly kill you if I were to give you my daily dose of morphine, because you're not used to it. So how do you know just lie just about it? It's not lying just about the count. So the way it is Alec, for his stupidity and his intelligence combined. So let me sidetrack from my drug talk for a second. For all his stupidity and intelligence combined, being a lawyer, having been an assistant prosecutor, he knows that murder, first suspects are going to be immediate family. Spouse dies, other spouse gets looked at. Kid dies, other siblings or parents get looked at. Very common, very, very common. Those get investigated. And there happens to be a correlation with those being the actual murders and why they look at them first. There tends to be that, right? It's that way for a reason. Not prejudice. It's based on some evidence, right? So in his now give him giving him I was on drugs and I was paranoid, which makes sense. To him, it made sense to not connect himself to being there recently before. And, he even admitted in the 911 call, and that whether he recognized it or not at the time, but when he was doing his interview, because he said I was there an hour and a half ago. I last saw them. It could, he said at trial it was a lie, but before admitting to that, it could have just been the trauma of finding his wife and son dead. He forgot that that was the last time he saw them. It happens. People forget shit all the time. Trauma impacts, and trauma, post-traumatic stress, we don't always, or technique, the way we deal with trauma and shit like that, the brain will do a lot of things to try and keep you safe, right? So you could forget that you were there. It might not be the first thing you remember. You might think it was something else in the day because that was the last thing you can remember, the connecting itself, right? There was a lot of shit that could have explained it. But when he admits to lying, I don't know if it's the best look, but if we take him at his word that he did lie, he knows that they're going to look at him first. So if they know he was right at the kennels right before they died and he left, they're going to look at him first, and they're going to, because here's the thing. Here's my personal belief on this. Whether he admits to the lie or not, whether he says, yes, I was at the kennels, or whether he lies and goes about it this way, they would still do the exact same case. They would have charged him. They would have pinned it on him regardless. Because even if he was truthful about it, it would still say he was the murderer. It's not about him lying about it. It would still use the boat case. They would still use all this other shit that he's a consistent liar. There's all this other stuff about why he's doing this, this, and that. They would still frame him, in my opinion, frame him as the murderer. Not frame as in like they're setting him up for it. Frame him as in drawing the conclusion that he's the murderer, right? Yes, it is a very bad look. But he's a smart lawyer. He should have known to not talk to the cops, which would have been the smartest decision to do. He should have not talked to them without counsel present. He should have waited, said, we'll talk to you tomorrow. This is too traumatic for my client to say anything tonight. He needs time to think about it, which would be the most rational thing to do. To me, that is one of the reasons I suspect his innocence is because he was overindulgent on sharing information. Like he shared almost everything you could think of in that respect, except the fact that he was at the kennels. Say if you think he can remember everything else, but in that moment, because if you go back now and look at the testimony given at the time, at the initial interviews versus now, yes, they are different. The information is different. The amount of information procured is different. They're not the same information. They helped him find the phones and shit, like Poop Knox saying, helped him find the phone. Again, for the purposes of this, you cannot assume he did it. And this is where everyone's failing, I think, in this, is everyone's framing the evidence in the concept of he did it. So you got to look at it that he did not do it until it can be proven that he did it, until all the pieces line up to all of this together shows he did it. Until that, he did not do it, right? All the pieces lined up, did not do it, right? Thing is he's either smart, so smart to pull off a perfect murder and suck ass at everything else, or he's stupid and managed to pull off an almost perfect murder. You got to pick one because you're holding the same kind of perspective here effectively, right? You get like, you gotta like frame the shit in the perspective of looking at it piece by piece and as a whole. Why would, if he did it and he tried to throw and hide the phones, why wouldn't he take the second phone? Why wouldn't he take his son's phone? Why wouldn't he turn them off? Right? If he's planned this shit out like everyone has said, and done it so perfectly, like everyone assumes, it was just the fact that his son took a Snapchat video. Why wouldn't he have turned the phones off? Why would he dispose of only one on the side of the road? There's so many more things I can fucking think of that if I'm doing, I'm definitely taking care of. Hopefully it's never as used in my murder trial, right? There's so many things I would think of to cover if I'm pre-planning it. But there's enough to me, even if he did it, there's still, even if I take for granted he did it, the state didn't prove it. That's to me the problem. Is the state didn't prove it, and they especially didn't prove it if they couldn't have added the propensity evidence, in my opinion. I do not think if they hadn't added the information that they violated his rights the way they did, I do not think they could prove it. I do not think a jury comes back guilty. They didn't prove their case. There's enough evidence to, because how do you do that in 17 minutes? Hide all that evidence, hide DNA, blood, all this other forensic evidence, hide weapons, clothing, all this other shit. Because don't get me started on the guns. The guns and firearms toolmark evidence is shit. I did digging on it. I read the papers on it. Firearms toolmark evidence is shit. The training and certification programs are shit. There's no scientific analysis of it effectively. Does this kind of look like this? Kind of. There's no way to prove a null. And that's the problem. There's no way to prove a null on firearms toolmarks. So they cannot prove, like they said, they cannot, even the state said they cannot exclude or include these weapons. That just means they're meh. They're kind of similar. And like with CNC machining and the way, everything's done with like computers and shit and robots and shit to make guns and do all that, you could probably take 10 guns from the same manufacturer and get very similar tool marks. So are they all the murder weapon just because they're similar? Like, there's not enough to prove it. Why would random killers? I'm not saying it was just random killers. He was a prosecutor for a period of time, so he had prosecuted some people. He had his son receiving death threats, according to him. So his son was allegedly involved in the killing of a girl because of his son's negligence and not necessarily negligence, but it was effectively manslaughter. So in that case, if not worse, so there's people who have reason to hate him and his son. And then, like, if I'm jumping into the commentary on Facebook, if he's got ties to organized crime and the mafia and all this other shit, if that's the case and he owes good, he can't be doing $50,000 a week in opioids. If I, take that, then he owes people money. So if he owes someone money, whoever, whether it's drug dealer, whether it's organized crime, whatever the fuck it is, you don't kill the person that you lent money to. You kill their family to send a message so you get your money back, right? There's never perfect evidence. I never said that. Please don't misinform what I'm saying. But there's no justification for Alex to be the murderer, is my point. It makes no sense for the motive the state put on a trial. Fuck everything else. The thing is, if the state's, like Twisted saying, if the state's lying to get an indictment, that's not okay. That right there, to me, should have thrown the shit out. The state should have thrown the case out, and the state could have fixed it prior to coming to trial. That, combined with the other shit that's happened, fucking throw it out. I do not care. Even if he did it, even if he comes out and admits he does it, it should still be thrown out and redone. But the thing is, it's not on me to prove that there were other people there. It was on the state to do that. But the state didn't really do their investigation well. Their people did poor jobs. They lied in more than one way. It was truthfully a shitty case to bring. They probably got lucky. That's my thought on it. I'm not here to simp for, I'm not here simping for Alex. I'm here standing beside the Constitution and principles I stood for when I took an oath to defend this country and protect this country and the Constitution. And seeing someone's rights get violated like that, seeing someone get put in jail, potentially innocent, because the state's case was shit. To me, that's a problem. Whether it's Alex Murdaugh whether it's some poor person from the middle of nowhere, whether it's some guy who's, like I said, it looks like he did it because everything's on video. That doesn't mean he did it until you prove it beyond basically all doubt, right? All doubt that is reasonable. And there are reasonable things to doubt in this case. That's my thought. For example, let's look at one of the jurors and their statements regarding this testimony. They did not believe Alex was sincere in his crying. So let's view some of that real quick. So let me full screen this. God damn it. Oh, wrong button. Find and full screen. Oh my God, hold on. I'm having technical difficulties, please. Thank you. Wait, where's my, hold on, where is it? I haven't used this in a while. Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Okay, I think I got it now. Sorry for technical difficulties. Let's try that again. I haven't used that in a while, so I love using that. It's one of my favorite fucking things I made. Yeah, I need to normalize the audio on that. I apologize for that. That's my bad. All right, let's try. Oh, now let's try again. Okay. Play.
Did you drive down to the kennels in your Suburban?
I did.
What'd you see?
Saw what y'all have seen pictures of. So bad.
Apparently, the juror only saw snot when he did his interview, which I thought was interesting. So, Tracy, tell me how you feel about this when you get a second. Do you feel this is genuine tears? Do you feel this is just snot? As one of the jurors so lovely put it on Good Morning America.
Yeah, I went to
Did you see them on the ground when you're pulling up in your Suburban?
I did.
And what'd you do when you came to a stop, Alec?
I think I jumped out of my car. I'm not exactly sure what I did, but no, I got out of my car.
That would be consistent with
I know
trauma.
I ran back to my car, called 911.
At least to me, anyway.
I called 911. I was on the phone with 911. I was trying to tend to Pawpaw. I was trying to tend to Maggie. And I just went back and forth between them.
Were you going to Paul and
Me too,
Maggie while
NBC.
you were on the
Me-
phone
me
with
too.
the 911 operators?
I used to hate my glasses sitting
Yes.
that forward when I had glasses.
Yes.
And in a little bit, I'm going to play the 911 tape, but I just want to ask you, and you've told law enforcement that's been played here in the court. What did you do when you went up to Paul at some point in time?
Well, hold on real quick. Let me pause this. What I'm talking about is he lied about specifically being at the kennels. What I'm talking about right now is different than this. Now he's talking about pulling up and finding the bodies and calling 911. He, gave his testimony in his initial interviews talking about how he thought, what he thought he did. Given that there's time between incident and now, it makes sense he might not remember the exact sequence of events, exactly what he did. That's fine. That's perfectly acceptable. But also, B, I think what Radioactive and what Twisted, your problem is I think what Radioactive you're not understanding is his rights were violated at trial, not just because of the indictment, but because of the violations of his Fifth and Sixth Amendment rights during the trial that the judge refused to cure, that were objected to, but they were not cured. They could have been cured. So his rights were violated at trial, so hence he did not get a fair trial. So but let's go ahead and continue this real quick. There's only a few minutes left of this particular clip.
Paul was so bad. At some point, I know I tried to check him for a pulse. I know I tried to turn him over.
When you say you tried to turn him over, why were you trying to turn him over?
I don't know. I don't know why I tried to turn him over. Me and my boys laying
Genuinely
face
believe
down.
him on that one. So one of the things that, whether he lied about the kennels or not, doesn't change the fact his rights were violated. He admits to lying about the kennels. That's fine. He lied about the kennels. Cool. It still doesn't address the other faults with the case. Also, a judge deciding something doesn't make it fair. I have seen more than once, and there have been more than many cases, and we have a sad history of cases in this country where judges have decided against defendants for whatever reason, because of their race, their sex. In fact, believe this or not, part of the shit I pulled up in my research about jury psychology and talking about common sense was there was a case involving a female prosecutor arguing that a female rape victim should have remembered that the defendant, what the rapist looked like, because if she, the prosecutor, were being raped, she would be putting up enough fight and would have enough lucidity to remember what the rapist looked like. And this was part of the prosecutor's arguments in the case, right? There was some in that, they should use their common sense, which was part of a ruling. This was several decades ago, to justify using that, in the appeals court, because it was appealed, and the appeals court said that the jury could use their common sense and about whether or not they would do that in determining reasonable doubt in regards. There was some bullshit shit that had come up in looking at this case. It was fucked up shit, but judges make mistakes all the time. That's why we have appeals courts. That's why we have a Supreme Court. If there was never a mistake by a judge, we'd have no need for an appeals court. A, judges are human. B, it's not just my statement of that. There's more than plenty. There's plenty of people who've commented on the violation of his rights, and they should not have happened. That's all that matters. But if he appeals it, he should hopefully win on appeal. I could still argue that A, his rights are violated and that he didn't do it. But even if he is guilty, and I take him at the fact of being guilty, that he did do it, he should still have his case overturned and either retried or they lose the retrial because of how severe it was, because of the violation of rights. And I agree with you, Poopnock, in that you fully expect them to do that. I think they'll say that as well, which they'll probably only do because it's been so publicized, and which is bullshit and is not fair to Alex or the process, because the process is the most important. Is we have to protect the process. Because like Twisted was saying earlier, is if they'll do that to this guy, they will do it to any single person. And it's not fair. That is disgusting to me. That is the problem. It's not all right. And I'm not saying his tears are proof that he didn't do it. He could have done it and still felt guilty. You know, I wasn't trying to necessarily imply that, but to me, this here, right, because we're still not done, this here, adding on to all of the testimony from both states and defense witnesses that said Alex Murdaugh loved his family. If he loved his family so much, why would he kill 2/3 of them? Right? And then months later, try to kill himself. If he's such a narcissist and all he cares about is himself, why would he try to kill himself to give his son money? Those are pieces that I think are getting missed, in my opinion. To me, there's signs of depression post the homicides. There's signs of suicidal ideation. He talks about it, the way he kind of just didn't want to exist anymore. Kind of, to me, say there's the bad person to screw his right to a fair trial is a very bad precedent. I agree. I agree that's a very bad precedent to set. So let's see here. Okay. I agree that he probably won't. So Poopnock said, now you're a psych expert, not necessarily an expert. Tracy probably could comment on this too. If Tracy, you want to come up and talk about this, you're free to. What would you expect to see if he was in shock when they questioned him or relying on a false memory or something? Well, here, the thing is people are different in how they respond to it. One of the things I think helps his case, and, here's some of the stupid body language shit that's been talked about. When I'll have to pull up the section where they ask, because it's not in this, where they ask him if he shot and killed his wife and shot and killed his son. He says no, but his head's shaking like yes, or like he's shaking his head yes, that means he did it. No, that's not how that works. It's just he looks nervous and he looks jittery, and it's possible, given having come off of drugs, he might have history or other medical issues that cause him to jitter and shake a bit. I don't know. I'm not his fucking doctor. But just because his head's shaking a bit because he's kind of upset while talking about this doesn't mean that's a admission that he did it. It's reading into shit. A lot of people, in my opinion, have come into this with the idea that Alex Murdaugh is guilty until proven guilty. There's no other way to find Alex Murdaugh, regardless of how you feel or believe. That's how they believe it. If you think he is innocent at all, I have seen this so much over the last 6 weeks. If you think he is innocent at all, you are being. I have to find the screenshots where I'm told that I am being manipulated and that I'm falling victim to his lies and his deceit. And I commented back saying, no, I have some experience in this field. I know what I'm looking at here. And they were doing, I hate using the phrase, it was like they were trying to gaslight me into believing me, trying to get me to believe that I was being manipulated by Alex because I was taking consideration that, hey, it's possible that he didn't do this, or hey, it's possible that he wasn't responsible for this, or that he didn't pull the trigger at least. I'm being treated like I'm a victim of his, like, or that I'm this innocent, 5-year-old who, oh, it's okay, honey, you're just falling for his lies. You just don't understand. He's a narcissist and he lies about everything. And he's such a good actor, and he can act really good, and he can make people believe anything he wants them to. It was disgusting. It was fucking disgusting. Yes, I said that. Guilty until proven guilty. I saw it or read it or heard it somewhere, and it's one of the best ways I've heard this being described. Is the people who have come into this with a bias against Alex Murdaugh believe Alex Murdaugh is guilty until proven guilty. You have no other way to look at it. They will only see it as one way. I agree with you, Tracy, on that one. I agree. Like I said, I think he's a fucked up person. I think he's rude. I think he's messed up as far as all the financial stuff. He did some horrible shit, stole lots of money. I don't think the jury, for a 6-week trial, did the true due diligence of looking at the evidence. I know for a fact if I was on the jury, I would have had to examine multiple pieces of evidence more than once. Unfortunately, I don't get picked for juries because of one of the things you'll tend to see is a lot of people with higher educations will get screened out. So if you have like a master's degree or a doctorate, they tend to screen you out if they can, depending on what the crime is. They will screen out certain professions. They will, if they have the ability to say, but I don't think for 6 weeks of testimony to switch from the one undecided and 2 not guilty, to go to all that to guilty in 45 minutes. What did you really talk about? What did you really say? Were y'all just pressuring the person to, were you truly talking about his innocence or guilt? Were you really weighing beyond a reasonable doubt as a standard? Or were y'all just saying, dude, looks like he fucking did it. Why don't you understand he did it? Let's go home. We've been sitting here for 5 weeks or 6 weeks getting paid shit money. I want to go home to my family. What really went on in that? Like, we don't know. Part of the thing. It's a very fast verdict. I don't remember how fast OJ's verdict came back. But it was a very fast verdict. Like, OJ's verdict came back really quickly for a 9-month sequestered trial, which makes sense. It's hard to say. I don't know if they looked at any evidence. I don't know if I would say that. I think for someone who's trained in answering questions and asking questions, I think it makes sense that he answered and responded, because they kept trying to get him to say certain things he is not a dumb guy. I'll give him that. He seems to be somewhat intelligent. But he knew what they were trying to do. They were trying to trap him into certain types of questions and certain types of responses. And for better or for worse, the judge didn't allow, during cross-examinations, specific yes or no answers. He would allow them to yes or no and explain, because that's based on each courtroom. The judge allows or disallows. Because sometimes you can, on cross, ask yes or no questions. Well, normally on direct, you ask open-ended questions. On cross, you can ask yes or no questions, basically, and just get yes or no answers. But this judge allowed explanations, and that actually probably benefited Alex in the sense that he could explain his answers. He could say yes, but, or no, but, and explain his thought process. And I think that actually helped him, from what I heard. I thought he did very well on the stand, and I thought him on the stand helped him more than anything, because we don't get to see Alex doing this.
Done the way he's done. Head was the way.
No, I didn't kill my wife. No, I didn't kill my son.
I could see his brain laying on the sidewalk.
For someone who loved his son and wife, his sons and wife and family, and was stealing money so his family, for his family, for lavish lifestyle or whatever reason, why would he kill them? Because he was embarrassed? Because he was ashamed? You
And
kill
when
your
I
wife and
did,
son for that? That doesn't make
his
sense.
phone popped out. His phone popped out. And just picked it up and I put it right back there.
Do you have any idea how it popped out?
I mean, I know it came out of his pocket when I pulled on his belt loop. When I pulled him to turn him over. And it just popped out. And I mean, it popped right beside him. It sat right beside him.
Were you able to turn Paul at all?
I mean, I didn't. I don't know if I was able to. I didn't turn him over. No. No.
What side of the on what side of Paul were you when you were doing this?
I was on the side that was away from. I was on the side that was away from where my car was.
Okay.
I mean,
What'd you do with the phone?
I put it back on Pawpaw.
You know if you put it, you know which way it was pointing, upside down, downside, anyway?
Couldn't tell you anything about it. I know his phone popped out. I picked it up and I put it back on him.
Did you see any messages on Paul's phone?
No.
Watch.
So one of the things that I kept seeing as well was that what was it? How do I phrase this? I think you make a really good point, Tracy. It was probably, in my opinion, if I saw my son like that, because if he's as upset as he sounds here on the 911 call and how he is in like the squad car when talking about it. I mean, someone mentioned he couldn't put a dog down because he couldn't actually pull the trigger to shoot a dog or something to put it down, right? He didn't have it in him to do it. If that's the case, on top of this, if he was truly that upset and he was the person who killed his kid and killed his kid and wife, I don't think he could have done it and actually been able to process enough in those 17 minutes to hide evidence, like cover, like, because there's, because people are like, he wore a hazmat suit. I'm like, where the fuck? There's no evidence of getting a hazmat suit anywhere in purchase records or nothing, or like no one, like, A, there's that. B, gotta hide the hazmat suit somewhere if you didn't get any on him, or whatever it is. Like, B, where the fuck is he gonna? No one's gonna ask him why. Hey, Alec, why is there the hazmat suit in the dog kennel underneath the dog food? Like, or do you keep it in your truck? Like, there's just so many pieces that go into this. I don't get. But based on how he's responded to anytime it comes up, anytime the photos come up and all the other shit came up, he probably could not reasonably, in my opinion, be able to do all the things he would need to do to cover up for a crime in 17 minutes. It doesn't make sense. Thank you. He's either a really good actor or a very vulnerable person. And the motive. What's the motive? He does not seem to have the capability to do it. I've seen my fair share of horrific shit in my time. I saw dead people at fire calls in high school in the morning before going to school because it was snow day. Couple hour delay for school. Went to a went to a car accident. Dude laying out of his vehicle was like 16 at the time. And I went to school a couple hours later. Didn't bother me so much. He was dead on scene. I've seen some horrific shit. People screaming for their kids because their kids are dying. Other horrible stuff. I've done CPR. I've put my mouth on people while they're dying, trying to do CPR. trying to give them, mouth to mouth and doing compressions and running a call, writing an arrest. I've done it all like that. Like I've done that. I've seen my shit. I've seen death and horrific shit. Like maybe not as much as others, but I've seen it. You either have to train for that kind of mindset, not have emotional processing ability for it. Like you just don't get impacted by it at all, which many people don't. Like that's a very rare thing in my opinion. Or C, you are the person like to show that kind of emotion. I don't think is consistent with a person who would, regardless of narcissism, drug, like even on drugs, because he said he was on drugs at the time. Like there's still not enough. The pieces don't add up to me to go beyond a reasonable doubt. Yeah, I agree with you, Tracy. It's different seeing it on screen. Right. It's, I agree with you on that, but there's a difference between being an actor and being able to process trauma. Because, like, for example, being a firefighter, being an EMT, you don't know what you get a rough idea of what you might see when you come onto a scene, but sometimes you have no idea what you're fucking going into. Hey, we got a call for someone. They said their mom's having trouble breathing. You get there, they're completely in cardiac arrest. So your family's screaming and crying, "Oh, help save me, mom! Do this, this, and that." So you gotta fucking like you practice for that, you train for that, you remember the steps to do. I has been, how old am I now? It's been over a decade and a half since I took my first EMT class, and I can still, to this day, having not done it in years, do a full trauma assessment on someone if I were on scene. Head to toe. I remember everything to check for. I remember what to check for. Turning the body, holding surface spine. I know all of it because I trained for it. Because you train to deal with those situations. You train to run into the emergency. You train to deal with the horrific shit. You learn to put up, if there's your emotions that you want to come up, you can push down by. You've trained your brain to follow step by step what to do next. And even if it doesn't follow step by step, you can kind of go, oh, I have this other thing. I know what to do. I have this. We've trained for this. We practice for that. Because your brain wants to go, holy fuck, what am I doing here? How do you deal with this? There's this horrific shit going on. So if you don't have that skill set, it's no different than, say, Tracy are talking to someone who's gone through trauma, listening to people saying, my husband or my wife beat the shit out of me. My dad or my uncle or my mom or my aunt molested me, or my parents locked me in a closet and fed me once a week, and I was only allowed to drink from the leaky pipe from the ceiling. Like, you gotta, the first time you hear it, like, might throw you, but you gotta be able to deal with that and not be like, holy fuck, and get taken away. And not have that be so distracting you can't do anything. It's hard to do some days. Like, I've had days where I'm like, holy shit, it's gonna be a hard day today. Or it's gonna, like, I've really got to process that because that was a tough thing to hear. And that comes sometimes with practice and sometimes with experience. So even if I give them the benefit of the doubt, being an attorney, be able to act, some things you don't, and I got pushback on this too. There are certain things you cannot act. And Tracy, tell me whether you agree or disagree with me on this one. There are certain ways the body responds to trauma that you cannot fake, right? I can fake cry, maybe. I can fake doing certain things. I can fake being upset. I can fake empathy. I can do certain things. But what you say and the way your body responds to things aren't necessarily things you can fake, because they will tend to work together in such a way that you either practiced it perfectly or you probably had some sort of thing to exhibit the trauma symptom, right? There's just something about it that If you've seen it, I know Tracy knows what I'm talking about because she's seen it. If you've seen someone have like a physical memory of trauma, I always use the example of the rape victim who is going through the mall and smells the cologne or perfume of the person who raped them, and it causes them to kind of lock up in fear and maybe start sweating or start shaking because that's the cologne or the perfume the rapist wore, right? It's gotta, like, you to fake that would be so profound, in my opinion. I have yet to see one happen. I've seen someone try to pull a fast one off me. I've seen someone who because you can't diagnose antisocial personality disorder in a minor because they're not 18 yet and personality is still developing. But I had a kid who was mid-teens who, damn, if it wasn't for their age, fit every single criteria for antisocial personality disorder. And I watched him try to play my emotion and try to do the fake crying shit for things, and I caught them on it. I knew they were faking it because I had seen what they had looked like crying before, and I had seen what they looked like when because after I caught them on it, then I could tell the difference when they would do it to me. There are just things that you can do that are somewhat believable. And then there's things that if you've really into trauma, experienced trauma, you can tell pretty damn certain if you know what you're looking for, that it happened. That's the way I see it. Say, he doesn't seem like the kind of person who could physically and mentally shoot his wife and son, blow his son's head open to where his brain is at his feet, and then do that being okay, then pull off and lie to the police in interviews and fake this emotion in such a way in more than one police interview and on the witness stand and while sitting in court for 6 weeks. And anytime the pictures of his son and wife come up, it's hitting him somehow. Come on. I've seen some of the best actors suck at doing emotion scenes and trauma scenes in movies. There's a difference when you've seen it in real life. There's a difference when you've seen it in real life, in my opinion. So there's that. But to me, I still don't think the state has met their burden. I don't think, with what I know from my experience and my life experience and my background in education, I don't think it adds up enough to him being the person who pulled the trigger. I don't think he could do it. I don't think you could hand a gun to him in the middle of an open courtroom, hand a gun to him, hand it to him and put it in front of his son and say, you get a free pass right now to shoot your son, scot clean, never get charged for a crime. No one cares. And he couldn't do it. I don't think he could pull the trigger. I do not think he could do it. But what I'm saying, Girl Scout, is the way he's responding, he would have responded whether he planned it or not, whether he planned to kill them or it was him, because they've argued multiple theories, which you're not supposed to do as the state. Number one, you can't do that because if there's multiple theories, then you have reasonable doubt by itself. Two, even if he did it in anger or jest or because he got surprised or whatever the fuck it was, he would have responded like we're seeing, because it would have hit him, holy shit, I just blew my wife and son off the face of the planet. And there you go. And then all of that hits him like we're seeing. Like I don't see it. Maybe I'm a bad judge of character. Maybe I'm really bad at it. Maybe I'm really bad at it. And the people I've worked with and the people I've dealt with, I've been really bad about judging. But still, I don't think it fits. See, I don't know if I agree with you on that one. The simple lack of character is all that is required to take an innocent life. It takes more. I mean, so are we talking about taking an innocent life with malice? Or are we talking about taking an innocent life through negligence? Like, could someone going shooting with someone and them being stupid with a gun because they lack character and lack, quote unquote, common sense to handle a gun properly? To me, isn't enough to say that they could plan and execute a murder, right? I don't think that that would work that way because they're stupid. To plan and execute a malice murder with that intent that I want you dead, I'm going to pull the trigger because I want you dead. I don't think that's just a simple lack of character. I think it has to go beyond that. Do people do stupid shit all the time like that? And for a different reason? Maybe. Yeah, they do. But, well, that's the thing. It's an argument. You didn't execute perfectly. And that's the thing is with the evidence and then watching how people discuss this case and argue this case is different. See, I don't think that makes sense, Girl Scout. Not if he was a drug induced. If he's drug induced, like you're saying, then he's not function because he's able to use drugs and perform as a lawyer, get through his day, do good work, make good money for his firm. Like you could be a very well high functioning addict, but if he was so badly on drugs he was out of his mind, then we're not having the functioning addict like we're having that's being presented to us in the case. So I'm not convinced he did it. To me, that's still a not guilty vote. I agree. I think there's a lot of pieces that are pretty damn close. I don't think they cross the threshold. I think you're pretty close. I just don't think you got there. And I think state, to me, if the state was truly concerned about getting justice for Maggie and Paul like they say they were, they wouldn't have done the things they did in the execution of this case. To me, that does not smell good. That does not pass the smell test of I'm wanting to do things for justice, to stand and speak for the dead and do these things the right way. Instead, I'm going to do things the wrong way. So that way, for whatever fucking reason it is, to me, that don't add up. To me, that just doesn't make sense. Right. Let's see here. Where was my next thing? Let's see here. Let me see if I can pull up my Google Keep real quick because I have my and some of that saved jury stuff on here. I think the where'd it go? If it's in here. Nope, wrong thing. I think I found it. No, I saved some shit in here. Oh wait, did I lose all my links? Yeah, I might have lost all my links when my browser crashed. My phone. Where'd it go? Wait, is it on my other account? Give me a moment here. Nope, that's all other shit. That's all this. Okay, nope, wrong thing. Okay, definitely wrong thing. Back to that. And Jamie says, should old or new miscarriages of justice be addressed first? Well, generally the appeals court will look at like the entire record. So they would look at from like the indictment to the guilty verdict and look at it as a whole. So I would think that hopefully the court, the appeals court will say that had the state not done what they did, that there would have been a not guilty verdict here. I would hope. Or that it would have changed the outcome of the trial, because I believe it would. I'm not the only person that thinks that. There was definitely a lot of sketchy shit, in my opinion, that went on. Where did... Nope, that's not it. Did I not have my... Where did I download them? I know I downloaded some jury stuff. So part of one of the things I wanted to talk about regarding jury instructions was there is an issue with jury instructions that involves what did they call it? How do I phrase this? So when the jury gets an instruction to do something like told not to focus on a certain piece of evidence, or that they cannot consider X, Y, or Z when they're deliberating and determining someone is guilty or not, that right there by itself can actually cause the jury to hyper focus on it, or put more focus and more weight on it than they should or would have had they not mentioned anything, right? So if I'm a judge and something gets brought up that it shouldn't have, like, right, so let's say, for example, in this trial, they bring up the roadside shooting. They weren't allowed to, it was not permissible, it gets mentioned. And if the judge just doesn't mention anything about it, like say it gets brought up briefly in one line of questioning and doesn't get mentioned ever again, right? Judge doesn't mention anything about it, it just gets objected to, whatever, versus the judge giving a curative instruction and saying to the jury, you cannot consider anything regarding the roadside shooting into blah, 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 right? By doing that, you actually put more weight and put more focus on it. So there's a few different reasons why. It can, a lot of people don't like being told what to do, right? So if the judge is telling them, you can't do this, you won't do this, right? The jurors or the jury, and this can be either independent jurors or the jury is part of the deliberations, can weigh the evidence specifically. So a juror could use that to weigh and say, no, the evidence is really strong in this, and then either intentionally or not, help them make their arguments for guilty instead of using the evidence that's allowable at trial to be able to be used, right? I don't necessarily agree with that, because the state's failings in protecting his rights, and by the implication of his Fifth and Sixth Amendment right, and the judge, to me, seemed to show some bias. There was some bias, and A probably should not have tried on a case involving the death of a son and wife when his own son died recently. That seems to me to be somewhat of a conflict, but that's not protected for appeal. But to me, I think there's, because the way we have, like when we do stuff, like we do psychology research, one of the issues we run into, especially something like this, is we can simulate, and, because I was actually on a mock jury not too long ago. I got paid for it, and, you get reimbursed or whatever. We watched, because it's like an 8 hour, it's like a 6 or 7 hour thing, including lunch or whatever. And they do like an abbreviated presentation of what they're going to show on trial. They showed some PowerPoints. The attorneys for each side talked a bit, what the arguments were, why it was about, like, I can't say specifically what it was. It was about some negligence, about who was responsible involving a vehicle accident, basically, was the case. And I can't go more in detail than that because I had a non-disclosure. But then for a good sum of money that was being argued, we had to determine guilt or not, or negligence. We had to determine whether or not that was guilty, but that the person was responsible for the accident or not, and then award, if we decided that, awarding the damages was how it was. And I got to be the foreman on, because we had enough people that there was 3 panels of juries. They had us break off into small panels of juries. I think it was like 8 or 9 of us in each or something like that. It was, and then I got to be, I was the 4-person from mine. Was trying to, I could not get our jury to come to a unanimous decision. Now, we didn't need one necessarily for this mock trial. They requested that we try to come to a unanimous decision. Is that there were people, it was funny because in my head during listening to one of the fellow jurors talk and what their arguments were, they were doing things that I was seeing people in like these Facebook groups doing. It's focusing on one specific thing and not analyzing the rest of it. I was doing, what I thought was a fair inclusion of evidence and what was presented and making my appeal argument. But seeing how people make their decisions and come to their conclusions was really interesting in the perspective of the mock jury. And so even though the mock jury is a decent way for the attorneys for that case to decide whether or not to settle or go to trial based on the results, because that's generally what those are for when you get paid for those like that. Or for research. That one was for the parties to try and settle or to go to trial. But even though we can do that for civil or criminal cases, we cannot replicate the same environment that we would have in a jury room. And that's a little sad in the sense that we can tell people, you need to take this serious. You need to take this serious, like someone's going to jail for it if you choose them guilty. But look at when we say put someone in an actual jury, there is, because even if I'm doing a research study, you have to treat this like someone's going to jail. Even though I am supposed to do it like that, I know that they're not really going to jail, right? I'm still going to do my best, but it's probably not going to be the same. So we have analogs. Like we have to accept that there is a limitation to what we can do from jury research. It's the same with other types of research. But jury research specifically, because we cannot peer into that room. That room is a closed environment. And B, I think Andrew Branca makes a good point that you really can't trust what any of those jurors say when they give interviews after the fact. You have no idea whether they're telling the truth. They might just be playing it up for the media. Who knows? But it's still like, there's, to me, I think we have a very good system in our country. We have the best system that exists. Unfortunately, a lot of other countries don't do the same systems we have in the United States. We have innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. While many countries say they have similar systems, they don't. We allow jury trials for petty crimes in a lot of cases. The Supreme Court in 2019, because I was reading the case yesterday, reaffirmed the right to a unanimous jury decision in a criminal trial. They didn't rule on whether or not that applied to petty crimes because it didn't come up as part of on the argument. But Louisiana and Utah had laws on the books where you only needed 10 out of 12 to vote guilty for a conviction. And in this article I was reading, it was talking about how when those laws were passed, they were specifically not just implied, were specifically done so that white jurors could overrule black jurors on the jury to sentence black defendants. And this wasn't just an assumption, is that when they were passing these laws, that the people who were putting these laws into the legislature presented them as that way because of the racism issues going on at the time. So in 2019, a case came up. It was a murder case from Louisiana. A man's murder case was overturned because 10 out of 12 people voted him guilty. And the Supreme Court said a unanimous jury decision was required to prove him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So some people would argue, is it really worth letting a murderer out of jail for 2 votes? I would argue yes. Other countries, you don't get a jury, you get a judge that may have their own biases, that may not give a shit. I mean, look at Count Dankula. For anyone who knows who that is, the guy with the Nazi pug who did it to fucking prank his girlfriend. He got dragged through court for 2 years, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of pounds because of British money on his case. It's a criminal case because he was quote unquote grossly offensive, as the law in the UK is. And they fined him at 800 pounds, which is like $1,000. After spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on his case, they fined him 800 pounds. Mostly because they didn't want, he was ready to go to jail. He was going to go to jail. He was actually not going to pay the fine and go to jail. Instead, they just pulled the money out of his bank account anyway, so that they didn't have to do that. Because he was going to actively not pay. And before he even had a chance to actively not pay, they just pulled the money anyway, which was very fishy in my opinion. But they would have sent him to jail for 6 months or more. I think it would have been a year, if I remember correctly, for making his dog salute to saying funny shit. Like saying it's horrible shit, but it's funny in the context of he taught a dog to do a salute. Instead of saying, "Hey, give me a paw," he said some other things. So it's pretty sad. So in context of other countries and their judicial systems, I think we have a decent one. Do I think that the jury got it right in this case? Define right. Do I think it was right, the right verdict? Based on the evidence? No. Based on the violation of rights? Definitely not. Based on what possibly happened or maybe happened? If that's all that mattered, then maybe. It kind of maybe looks like he did it. But for me, I take it is that innocent until guilty beyond reasonable doubt. That's how I process it, and that's how I do it, because I know if I were in his fucking seat, I would want every single one of you fuckers to treat me the same way. And so whether it's some fishy fucking guy from South Carolina, whether it's one of you guys, whether it's some person down the street, I have no idea who they are. I still want it to be treated the same exact way. So here's the thing is the way it worked. So I'll sidetrack to that for a minute. With the Count Dankula thing, right? They have what's called the Communications Act of 2003, I think it is. And he had made the video. It was intended for personal, like for family, only like 20 people. Like he sent it to a few family people, and they shared it, and it blew up and got like 500,000 views. Legitimately, no one complained about it, and the police still showed up anyway. And it said that I think a local Jewish person that it said it was offensive or something. It was like an after the fact thing, but no one had complained about the video. Some people thought it was distasteful. Some people thought it was not funny. Some people thought it was kind of racist or not racist, well, somewhat racist, but anti-Semitic because it was involving the Jews and the Holocaust and Hitler and stuff. And so technically, yes. But that's also a country that doesn't protect speech like the United States does. It doesn't protect other rights like we do. So when I, sometimes I get shit on for defending my country because, do we have horrific issues that have happened in this country? Sure. Have we done really bad things in other ways? Yeah. I'm not denying that. But when it comes to criminal trials and having dealt with criminal trials in more ways than one, personally and professionally, they're not fun. They suck. And even though I don't want to be on the end of that stick ever being in charge, like, I still want to give people the belief that, I tend to try to see good in people. I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt, and it's worked very well for me in my life. So that's why when I approached this case, I didn't want to bias myself by watching the Murdaugh mystery, the other documentaries, and listen to the podcasts, and I spent hours of my time over 6 weeks, probably more than that, just responding to people's stupidity in some cases on fucking Facebook and on Twitter and on these other groups and shit. There were people in this Facebook group as of like the day before talking about, will he kill himself in prison, or maybe he'll get murdered in prison? Maybe someone will kill him. And if he gets killed, will his son still get the life insurance money? Like, and his son, he collapsed outside the courthouse not because his dad was guilty. It's because he's guilty about he's worried about the what is it? The upcoming this other's trial that he's possibly a murderer in. And I know for a fact, if any of these people were being accused of these crimes, they would want to be thought innocent until proven guilty. I know for a fact, none of these people would be like, oh, prove me guilty. Just assume me guilty until I can prove my innocence. Prove a negative. Prove a negative. I dare you. The thing is even if you violate it, it's more, if no one's offended, no one reports the crime, is it really a crime? There's no victim. There was no victim in that crime regarding Count Dankula, right? And I know the argument you're having here is there is something to say when a country will prosecute you for a funny video that had no victims. Again, I thought it was funny. I thought it was fucking hilarious. It was fucked up, but it was fucking hilarious. But to have no victims and spend all that time and money, 2 years, and all that time and money to find you $800 or $1,000, you convert, like roughly you convert to US at the time, I think it was like $1,000, right? Is it really worth all? Because there was more than $1,000 of time and money spent on it. No one was actually hurt. No one was actually a victim. Just like if I go buy weed and smoke weed, it's a victimless crime. I am choosing to smoke weed on my own accord in that case. Is there a victim there? No. I'm not dealing. I'm smoking weed. I'm the only person. Is that a crime? Should it be a crime? So even though he may have broken the law, it was important to discuss it, and I think to bring it up because it should not be a crime, especially when it involves something so fundamental, like in that case with Count Dankula's speech. His speech should be free, and it should not be criminalized. I think the way the U.S. has it is, unless it is something like CP or something like, which would be a criminal thing, or if it is imminent, invoking imminent act, like something that would imminent lawless action is, I think, the way it's worded. It's something, unless I say something that would inspire or invoke imminent lawless action, like go burn down the church on 6th Street in 5 minutes. I'll meet you all there. Or everyone go burn this. Let's go burn the St. Mary's Church on 6th Street down at 6 p.m. on the dot today. And it's like 5 o'clock. Like it's coming up. I gave specific instructions, and there's intent to, like that there versus let's burn down all the churches. That's not something that would be criminalized here, right? So, see, here's the thing. I personally don't care if people smoke weed. I want people, if they want to smoke weed, to smoke weed. Honestly, don't care if drugs are legalized. It's not my body to choose to do with it. Now, if someone has an addiction, they choose to get help, that's on them. But I do not care what you put in your body. Whether it's drugs, whether it's adult toys, I don't care what you put in your body. Whether it's multiple people, whether it's one person you put in your body. No, not that vor stuff. I'm not going there. But just generally, I do not care what you put in your body. I generally do not care what you do as long as it doesn't harm another person. Right? As long as what I'm doing is not harm another person directly. Not just because I say something and it makes someone offended, or I say something that bothers someone. That's different. So that's different, right? But that's why I'm so intent on like, it's why like I knew talking about this would cause people to be, for example, we're having, for what it's worth, and I'll give, the people in chat a compliment, is everyone in the chat has been pretty respectful having disagreements about this topic. Thank you for that, because you were acting like good, responsible adults. We had disagreements, we had, different opinions on things, but yeah, we could still talk to one another like adults. I could not do that in some of these groups. I got treated like a child in some of these groups. I wish I could find the fucking screenshot or go find the comment where I'm being talked down. Like I'm the one who's the victim, or like I'm the one who has no idea what I'm talking about, even though I watched or listened to every damn minute of the trial effectively. So, do I think Alex Murdaugh is truly innocent of the crime? I don't know, but I'm presuming him to be so because I do not think the state did their job in more ways. And if we're going to give an entity the power to imprison or kill people, you should give every fucking benefit to the average citizen that they did not do whatever they're being accused of. Like I said, I do not care if it's on film because, like my example earlier, I could be seen going into a bank robbing a bank. Didn't kill anybody, but robbing a bank. May look clear as day, but you do not know that my family is being held hostage and I'm being forced to do it. And I have an actual duress defense to why I did the crime. And I would probably be found innocent once everything's fleshed out. That doesn't mean I'm guilty. Right? Doesn't mean I deserve to go to prison for it because I was on the belief that my wife and son or wife and daughter would have been murdered or whatever. So, God damn it, you stop it now. Oh, dude, the condescension was horrible. And I was doing everything I could to not be like, I want to say this professionally and nicely, but to not be a dick and not be an asshole in response. That was the hardest part. It was like, oh, I want to be an asshole so bad. It was so hard to be fucking polite. Uh, is this comment saying what I think it is in this Facebook group? Yeah, I think there's another comment in the Facebook group talking about how Alex will be on suicide watch and, are they just doing it to try and protect themselves from a lawsuit or to prevent, like, let's see what else here. One thing I could not, like, there were times where the state did things good. There were times when the defense did things good. There were times when the judge was not a horrible person in some of his decisions. But you cannot. So, like I said, do I have potential bias involved in this? Sure, I have a little bit of bias in everything. Everyone does. No one's bias free. I try to minimize my bias and reduce my bias. But one thing I cannot see in a lot of people who viewed and carried and followed this was they refused to see any action of the defense as saying, hey, that was actually a good move. Or, hey, they're doing what they have to do to protect their clients. Or they're horrible people for protecting him. They're doing this. No one respects the process anymore, it feels like. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Listen, that is one of the things that, like I was saying earlier, is in a profession like this, in any profession where you have any ounce of like an appeal to authority, like people will tend to want to believe you and trust what you have to say. It is too easy to abuse that. Have there been situations where I could have been like messing with people or messing with families or messing with clients I've worked? Sure. I could have said or done some really fucked up things. Did I do it? No, because that's really fucked up. And I try to, help the people I'm working with if I can. Does it always work out? Of course not. Fuck no, it never always works out. I've done some things that I've questioned my own judgment at the end of the day, and I went, why the fuck did I do that? Or holy shit, I cannot believe I did that. But it worked. And that's what that is, to me, I couldn't see myself being in a position where I abuse the power I'm given. Like, you see a lot of times where, um, for example, one thing you can't do in my specific field is ever have a sexual relationship with a current or former client ever. Psychologists, after 7 years, and they're no longer a patient, there's no longer a clinical thing, you can have, I think it's 7 years, you can have a sexual or intimate relationship. But social work, it's never allowable, like ever. There ever been a client, you cannot ever have a relationship with them. Like, technically, it would be unethical. It would violate the code of ethics. Like, people do that. People have an inappropriate relationship with clients. Unfortunately, there have been the occasional case where uh, mental health professionals abuse their power and have driven people to harm themselves or kill themselves. Uh, doctors have done similar shit too. Um, it's not okay. But I think, I don't think I could ever see myself doing something like that. But also, I think, like, Rakita was talking about regarding financial crimes, right? Where, it's easy to, like, with a company, when you have a lot of money in a company and you have like a card or a account like that where you have access to, well, like you could take like $100 and like put it back later and no one noticed it was missing. And so next time you take out a couple $100 and then put it back, or take out a few $100 and then put, like, no one noticed it's missing. Like, oh, they're just counting error. So I could see where Alex kind of buries himself accidentally. Like, it started small, maybe need a little bit of money, maybe you wanted, assuming it was not necessarily meant to be malicious. It could go very quick, even though you're not supposed to do that. Where it gets to having to lie to clients and steal their money. Where a good person can accidentally end up, through multiple poor decision making into a situation like that. I'm sure it could happen in my field if I justify, the wrong decisions, if I justify the wrong actions. I have, there's times where I've come home from work and I've, like, sat down and went, did I do like, was I right to do that? If I ever have concerns, I consult supervision or I consult people I trust and go, is this the right thing to do? Because, did I harm someone in what I did? Because maybe it's something I haven't dealt with before, or it was a new thing to try, or I was just acting in the moment. Sometimes, like, legitimately, I've had to figure shit out in the moment and no idea what I was doing as it relates to the thing. And I just instinct kicked in and it just acted. And those are probably some of the hardest times because I can't just go, oh, I'm relying on this from this chapter, this book for what my actions are right now. It's, I got to look back and go, okay, what I did do actually has some basis in principle, and maybe I didn't realize at the time, or, you know, what I was doing made sense based on the circumstances. Would never do it with another client because it was only working for that one client. But it's, yeah. This here, Tracy says it best. Yes, we as professionals need to keep our client's best interest in mind and let clients make their own decisions, autonomy. Exactly. I can't tell you how many times being a therapist, people go, I need advice. And Tracy gets this too. They're like, I need advice. And I'm like, I don't have any because I don't give advice because that's me telling you what to do. I'll talk it out with you. I'll give you options. I can give you suggestions as far as how those actions can lead upon others and build upon, or what that could be, or the best way to deal with XYZ in certain things, but I cannot make the decision for you. I cannot tell you what to do. It has to be on you, because it's your life that will be either good or bad, end up in a good spot or bad spot, depending on what happens. If I look at hold on. If I look at some of my clients, I've had more than one say, "Give me advice, please. I need to be told what to do." And it sucks, because it's like, I wish I could tell you what to do, because it would make my job easier and I could save you money. Because we'd be in and out of this office in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It's better you learn how to have the same thought processes as it come to the same conclusions as I do, so you can learn to do it on your own, and you don't need me anymore. So for example, I'm still skimming through some of this Facebook group stuff. Just talking about the case again. The defense basically said that prosecution painted Alex Murdaugh as a horrible person. No, that is incorrect. Alex Murdaugh painted himself as a horrible person and gave the prosecution great material to work with. Apparently, his family still believes in his innocence after watching every minute of the trial. So we're all meant to believe that Paul and Maggie were shot by guard gnomes, with the family now missing weapons. See, that kind of belief to me is, if I were to treat that person the same way, they would be like, "Why would you do this to me? Why would you assume I did such a horrible thing? Why would you take me that way? Why would you paint me as a horrible person?" I see too, like, one of the problems I've seen too is not just with this case, but other cases. I know when I've talked about other cases, especially when it involves children, people get really invested. I know, like, for example, the Idaho 4 thing, the Brian Kohlberger shit. I know that's coming up as a trial at some point in the next 10 months, 12 months. It'll be on queue. People were like stupid invested in it. I saw them as my children. Oh, like they personify and take on and get so invested in these cases. And I have to find it, because I was talking to Mrs. Ken about it a while back. Is like 95% or more of the people I see on these true crime groups and who these true crime live streams on YouTube and shit are female. They tend to be women, right? And I was looking and I was wondering why. And so I did some digging, and I found an article that talked about it. It was really cool scientific. Actually, let me see if I can find it real quick, because it might be a cool way to end the stream. Scholarly article. If I can find it real quick, because it was a really good article. Where'd it go? What's this? Is this it? I think I found it. Why was the right article, or is this a different one? Because one of the things I was wanting to talk about, I haven't had a chance to, was there is a Netflix or Hulu, I don't remember which one. There is a Netflix or Hulu mini series that came out recently that's talking about these true crime people who are like on these different forums in, I can't remember the name of it, but like on the forums and message boards talking about cases, doing their own digging, accusing people of crimes, and saying, "Oh, it's this person," and have helped solve an occasional crime. But and that's been rare. In many other cases, like for example, look at the Idaho case. The one deceased victim's ex-boyfriend was, for days or weeks, they assumed, treated as the murderer, was basically socially ostracized, had caused severe mental health issues on them, if I remember correctly. It was bad. Like, people will go insane into like this intense um, shit about true crime, and it's scary how invested they will get and how they will justify. And like one of the things I see and worries me with like the commentary on like this Facebook group on the Murdaugh case is the thought process is it's an ends justify the means for many of the people, and it's really fucking scary because there's so many ways that could go wrong and could harm or kill someone, especially when you're accusing people of crime, when you're accusing people of being murderers, when you're saying XYZ, you know, happened to someone, or this is who's responsible for this. I might have to do this is a different show because I don't know. There's several papers here I'm running across. I cannot remember which one it was. It was pretty good. It talked about something to do with how, especially like women who are like housewives or mostly homemakers, and how it had to do with, you know, because of things like crimes like assault and rape and murder with women being victims, how it's a way to expose yourself to certain types of situations and almost as a way to prepare for it. If I remember correctly, it was really interesting because, like I said, a lot of the people I see in these groups are very much, 95% more women. So if that's the case, I always like to know the why. That's why I like psychology, because I want to know why. Why do people do what they do? Why do people think the way they think? So it's not. So for example, talking about that, the shooter bent his knees a little. It's more about, I think, to get the angle that was being argued, you would, because I think that shot specifically had to come from up above and shot down. I have to. There was some really, like, either A, you're too tall and to bend your knees, or it's like, because people were arguing he was sitting on the golf cart when he did that. Okay, then where's the evidence from the golf cart that shows it? Because A, if he was in the doorway, like people are saying, like there's so many like pieces of information that are missing, so they make his jump to one. I think it was a good place to say it made sense for the shooter to be this tall, which could help exclude Alex, because why would you? Because people were like, he was on his knees when he did the shooting. He was behind, sitting on a bucket, and he shot them. Like, okay, but that doesn't explain your other theory. That doesn't explain this other piece of information. And so they'll apply immediate theories to specific pieces of information or evidence, or to try and discount certain pieces of information or evidence presented by the defense, but won't apply it to the rest of the theory, the rest of their thought process. And so those little pieces throughout the trial get used to argue for guilt. But if you were to put those and present those as one linear piece of evidence, no one would believe it, because it would not make any sense. Like, even our most adamant people in this chat who were like, he's fucking guilty, if I lined up some of these people's thought processes from beginning to end, you would be like, no, that don't make any fucking sense. So to me, I get where they're coming from in that argument. It makes sense to me because he's a tall guy. He's like a foot taller. Why would you crouch down to really, like, why would you bend your knees? Or if you're doing this, or if you're in that situation, it's kind of odd. It's kind of weird to me to do that. To me, that's just doesn't add up. It just does not make sense to me. So if he's a tall person, that's a foot shorter person. It doesn't necessarily exclude him specifically, but each little, like, the thing is, it's not this, because the states tried flipping the burden. I think they did it in closing too. They tried flipping the burden onto the defense to prove he was innocent. That's not okay at all. There was a lot of just shit that doesn't add up. And like you got to argue what you have. Like, assuming he's innocent, or assuming he's guilty, whatever it is, even if he's guilty, you still got to throw whatever you have out there and say, this is things that you can say, because that's their job. Whether they like it or not, that's their job, is to put everything they have out there and say, this is why our guy is not guilty. This is why he should not be found guilty. So though I think there was a lot of shit that could point that way, possibly. Okay. One second here. Sorry about that. So yeah, I think what I might do is put some of that on the back burner for a future stream, is some of this why women are into true crime. It might be a fun stream to do. But let's see. Trying to make sure I didn't miss any. How did true crime become the new soap opera in Beautiful One? I have theories. I've seen, for better or worse, people posit them in different circumstances. Some of them may be more like leaning more like heavily one way or the other. That's kind of biased. But, you know, a lot of people assuming, like, say they're homemakers or they work part-time, or, you know, they don't have excitement and thrill in their life. I could see that being a thing. Or they're trying to find something that's intellectually thrilling, and they're using what they think is, or they want to, they want to be the person to solve the crime, to figure out the clue. It's the see, Tracy can say it without me being accused of being sexist. So I'll let Tracy's comments say it for me. Yes, I think women are into true crime because it's exciting, and most women have boring lives, but that's just my theory. I don't think you're wrong. So you said it, Tracy. I'm just saying, I just read what you commented. It's not my opinion. I didn't say that out loud. I just read what you posted. So, like, I won't disagree. Like, JCS, like, and like, because JCS is interesting for me from the perspective of the psychoanalysis. I guess let me not use psychoanalysis because I got shit on another stream because I used psychoanalysis and I wasn't doing true psychoanalysis. Whatever, the psychological analysis of criminals or of certain crimes or certain things. Those are interesting to me because that's, to me, digging into the mindset of, because criminals, especially murderers, are a unique subset of, we don't have as many of them as we do normal people, right? We don't have more murders than we do normal average humans. And so when we have them and we have access to them, we want to know more about them. So we have an understanding of why that different mind or different neuropsychology is at work, why the brain is, maybe it's a, because is it a biological thing? Is it another piece that's going on? Is it social? What is causing someone to take such an action? Because I, for example, could never see myself shooting someone in malice. That, like, I want this, like, have I felt that way about people? Like, I really wish this person was not existing anymore. Yeah, because I've been angry, but I tend to not do that anymore. I've been really good about that. I'd probably feel horrible should it happen, because if it's happened within close proximity to me saying it or feeling that way. But I don't think I could ever do it. Now, if I had to act in a self-defense situation, I would be able to do it, because to me that's different. I would still live with it every day of my life, knowing that whether it was an adult, a kid, a teenager, whatever the situation may be, because I say that because there have been situations, not necessarily I can recall immediately, but look at a lot of soldiers who were overseas who had to shoot kids who were carrying weapons or who had been wired with explosives and were coming and putting them at risk. You have no choice, and it's like no other choice. It's that you killed the kid or you let you and your buddies die. And it's a really shitty situation. And you will live with that. And so I know I would live with that if I ever had to do it. I came close to it once. Thankfully, it never got that far. It could have gotten 30 seconds. Had I woken up 30 seconds sooner, it would have been a lot different day for me, I think. Probably would have been in the news. But I mean, I was in the news anyway, but that's a whole other story. But I still don't want to ever have to be in that situation. So I avoid them if I have to. They see it twisted, but see, Tracy makes a good point. But how do you spot a liar? Spotting a lie is not as easy as it sounds. Because there's a lot of, so for example, if we go back to my analysis of Alex Murdaugh so far. Actually, let me find another clip of Alex. I want to show another clip of Alex. Let's see. Let's see if I can find this section here, because this is, I think, the important section. That combined with the section where he talks about coming across. Is this it? Here we go. Let me pull this up real quick. This will give me some more insight into my thought process, right? Let me put tab all the way full. It is full screen. Okay, so share. Put it on screen with you guys. So let's share some screen real estate for a minute. Put my head off screen for a second. So let's do that. So this is real quick.
And I lied about being down there. And I'm so sorry that I did. I would never intentionally do anything to hurt either one of them.
If you continue lying,
Do anything.
I saw a legitimate tear right there. I know it's hard to see. There's actually a tear on his face right there. So if I could, at least that juror didn't see it or he lied about it. Anyway,
Either one of them.
you can see it
if you
crawling down his
continue
face.
lying
That's not
after
snot.
that night,
Unless he snots from his eyes, and if you snot from your eyes, you probably want to get that looked at. I'm not judging. I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying if you're snotting from your eyes, it's something you want to get looked at.
you're not?
But once I lied, I continued to lie. Yes, sir.
Why?
You know, oh, what a tangle.
I have that
where
same
we weave.
thermostat.
But once I told a lie, then I told my family, I had to keep lying.
Like his statement about would never intentionally hurt his wife or son. There's an emotion with that. I don't think someone who did that hurt. And so one of the things, I don't think he would do that. That wasn't to me genuine. It came off to me genuine. And one of the things that was hyper analyzed by the people in the groups was he said he would never intentionally hurt her, or he never, because he did say I never would kill them. There was a different section of that, but people were analyzing it hyperly. They were like hyperanalyzing and saying, "Oh, he said he would never intentionally hurt hurt them." That doesn't mean, what if he unintentionally did it because he was angry? Or I'm like, people say that because if I said I would never hurt my wife, right? I've never hurt my wife, right? Well, if you made her mad, have you made her upset? Have you ever do anything that would make her emotional? So you've hurt your wife. Like that's just easily the line of questioning you would go down to. I'm not even a fucking lawyer, and I would ask that line of questioning if I was cross-examining someone. It's very easy to poke a hole in it. So you lied about saying you would never hurt your wife or anything like that. See, very easy to walk into that trap. Hence why you would say something like, I would never intentionally hurt, because do we do things to hurt our spouses emotionally, sometimes physically? Like, I've like moved stuff or whatever, and like my arm is like slipped and like caught my wife in the elbow or the arm or something, and she like, ow, that hurt. Like, did I technically hurt my wife in that situation? Yeah, but it was an accident, so it was unintentional. But if I say I never hurt my wife, then it would be technically a lie, because I have had accidents where I've slipped or I've tripped or she's tripped in her car. Like things like that happen. So it's an easy thing. And then, of course, they get to use that and say, he lied on the stand and said he never hurt his wife. He never hurt his son. But you have all these times where he hurt his wife. It was an easy trap to walk into. It was very easy to walk into, and he chose not to. And so I think making the argument that he said intentionally means that he was out of his mind angry doesn't work to me, because that would, that still, to me, doesn't add up. So So Lupnock says, I feel like in these police interrogations, non-disclosure seems to be the biggest giveaway. What won't they talk about that someone in a position normally would? I'll grant you it's night and day compared to, say, Amber Heard, who is actually a professional actor. Yeah, she even trying her best and apparently having several diagnoses failed to show genuine emotion in a lot of ways. It was easy for some people to pick up on. I picked up on it, and I know other people picked up on it. Do I like being in a place where I say this person's not being genuine? No, I don't ever like saying that. I have said it. I don't like it. You know, like when talking about the Vic Mignogna stuff, I've said, going over the situation where she talks about Vic versus the time she was, sexually assaulted when she was in high school. They're two different responses. I've looked at it and said, these are two different things to me. One looks genuine, one doesn't. Here, Alex looks genuine in his emotional response to the incident. You can only fake so much. You can only do so much. Regardless if you've had 10, 20, 30 years of training as a lawyer, you are not an expert in faking emotional responses to trauma. No, you're not that good. I've never seen anyone pull that off. It hurt to do everything except fake cry. The trial taught me to look for differences between exam and cross-exam. Yeah, and you're going to see that anyway. And one of the things, for example, here people argue that Alex is lying is because one of the arguments I've seen people make is, he goes from crying to not crying suddenly. It's like he's flipping a switch while he's being asked questions. And so how is he, if he's truly upset, if he truly wasn't responsible, he would just be crying and crying and crying and crying. I'm like, no, because you're changing subjects, you're changing topics, you're gathering yourself. It's when the mind starts because you don't store pieces of information in your mind like little blocks. It's not like I store the block of my wife and son being murdered is like one block here. There's a bunch of different ways the information connects together. So certain things can kind of remember and relate. That's why when we smell the perfume or cologne, if it triggers a memory because it's one part of the memory. Our senses play into our memories in a lot of different ways. The way our brain stores memory, short and long term, is fascinating. I'm not going to go into the neuropsychology because it's intense and I'd have to pull up my books. But it's interesting shit. It truly is. It's like eyewitness testimony. I love talking about eyewitness testimony because eyewitness testimony is probably one of the worst things to rely on for evidence because people suck at remembering what they saw at an incident, especially when time is further and further away from the incident. So like, to me, I don't, because I've had severe depression issues before, where I've been really depressed, and I've talked about it before on this channel. Tried to take my life twice. Thankfully, I got better. I have ups and downs in my day. Like I said in my Discord recently, I've been down recently a bit. It sucks because I hate the way it makes me feel. I can think about something and cry about it, and then I'll think about something else and I'll kind of pull it together and kind of quickly-ish and get my shit together and continue on with whatever I'm talking about or doing. And I look like nothing happened, or I look like I got it together, and then I can think about it again and be a complete wreck. It happens. Doesn't mean I'm faking it. Doesn't mean my emotions are genuine. I think that's one of the things that strikes me so much here is I don't want to be the person that says, hey, this guy's, like, do I want to look like I'm defending Alex because he's a horrible person for stealing money from, disabled people and horrible, like, no, I'm not defending him. I'm defending his rights in the process. That's what the most important thing to me is. And to me, I don't think Alex showed the signs of someone who would maliciously harm his wife and son. Especially when you have people who are testifying against him saying, oh, he fucking stole all the monies from us. But dude, he loved his kids. He never missed a game. He was doing all the. Why would you do that? Why would you take that from yourself? Why would you take it away from yourself and leave yourself with one of your children? You have 2 children, you leave just one of them behind. You leave them without a brother, and then you let that guilt overwhelm you to take your own life, or try to take your own life. And that's just how it ends. Like, that just doesn't add up to me. There's just no motive. Regardless of whether the state has to prove it, the motive isn't there. If they don't prove the motive, there's a shit motive that they put up, and there's no way to say, hey, this is what happened. This is what really went down, and this is why we say you should put his ass in jail forever. It's a good point. See, I love Tracy. Tracy, if you want to come up, say yes, I'll send you a link. But people can detect genuine emotions from other people and be confused as to why those emotions are happening. Thank you. So people will see Alex here crying on the stand. And I think one of the things you'll have is, if we look at things like thinking errors, cognitive distortions, they have I would probably say at least 1 or 2 at play, if not more, in regards to how, let me see, regarding, because I hate saying it that way, regarding how their belief for Alex's guilt is. They are dead set on his guilt. So everything has to be filtered through that guilt mindset. So they see Alex crying. He's a very good actor. He was a lawyer. They justify it in different ways, right? That's one. He lied about, he lied about the being at the crime scene right before, right? So he lied about it. So he's guilty. We filter it through that. Well, that's obviously because he's guilty and he's the one who killed them. We filter it through that, right? Ooh, that's actually good. Tracy, I don't know if you'd be interested in that. But Jamie says, be interested to see you and Tracy do a reaction to body language panel and interview room analysis of Murdaugh's reaction. But to his interview, his first interview in the room or the interview in the car? Let's see. Let me see if I can find that. Is it long? Where'd my stupid links go? Okay. Stop sharing. Let's see this. See if I can pull it. Because I actually like the body language guys. They're not like horrible. Like they're Wait, hold on. Where'd it go? Oh, well, that's not the full thing. That's on the stand. Behavior panel says Alex spikes the BS meter. Body language expert, police interview. Loopnock says, I would posit that committing and witnessing a murder are equally traumatizing. I would actually disagree with you on that one. Both are traumatizing, but they're traumatizing differently. Because the mental state to commit a murder, because again, murder, let's, for the purpose of discussion, murder being malice to purposely end someone's life, right? Not just the actions it resulted in and whatever that kind of shit would be, right? So let's talk it like that way, like the way they're trying to prosecute us, right? That versus witnessing it are different because of the way you're responding to it. Because I would assume, again, having not murdered anybody that you all know about, from the standpoint of the murder, the way your brain is going to respond to witnessing it was going to be different than the person who has witnessed it, right? Because like I was saying earlier, I've witnessed some pretty damn bad shit, especially when I was in my teens, being a junior firefighter. Like that was some really fucked up shit to see as a teenager, especially for a young developing mind. but I also had trained to be able to, respond in an emergency. So if we work off of the assumptions of like Alex being this narcissist or being a psychopath or sociopath, whatever people have put up there, right? We take those and use those and apply to them. We look at the psychopath, the lack of empathy, the lack of remorse, the doing it, the response to that's going to be different than me watching you blow someone's head off and going, oh my God, this person just, but the person who's doing it, even the narcissist, I'm protecting myself. The reasoning, justification, the response to the trauma is to, protect themselves, maybe as a way to go, how they're going to, because one of the ways, like when we have trauma happen, like why did it happen and how do we process it? Like we know the thing happened, we may not know why it happened, but we still have to deal with it. Like, look at like, let's use, falling back on the rape victim. Let's say I was raped. I don't know why I was raped. I was just raped and it was horrible and I have to deal with the fallout of it. So I had these things and my body responds this way. My emotions are this way. My mind's this way. How do I deal with it? So I might not ever know the motivation or the intent or why it happened. I just know it happens because I've got the emotional scars from it, right? Maybe no physical scars, just emotional scars, right? So we have that. Now, being, so do we have the same situation where committing murder and witnessing a murder, is it traumatic to be a rapist versus being the rape victim? Or does it only apply specifically to murder because of the life-ending factor? That would be an interesting argument and discussion to have, I think. I don't know if anyone else is understanding what I'm putting out there. So, Phil, I'll always be your cool island girl. Say, I'm a cool girl. You should see my OnlyFans. OnlyFans.com/Ken's Trap Couch is where my girl pics are. So, the Phil, I think you might be a little intoxicated, buddy. I don't know if you're drinking or not, but it seems to me to be the case. Let's see here. I rank body language up there with phrenology. Hey, phrenology is good science, man. Why you guys shun phrenology? I got my certification. That's the problem with experts too. The expert will usually say something completely reasonable and nuanced, and people will go, "See, that means he did it." I'm gonna leave this up for a second. So, I'm not saying I completely support the body language analysis kind of shit, like the body language, the whatever that is, the panel, whatever they're called, right? The behavior panel. They're pretty decent at doing certain things. I think it gets to a point where analyzing certain micro expressions. For example, if you just watched me as a person, right? I bounce my leg a lot. I'll bounce one or both of my legs a lot. I'll sit with one of my legs crossed. Or I'll rock around in my chair a bit. If you didn't know, you might think I'm nervous. You might think, oh, he's hiding something. He's doing this. Whatever that body language might imply normally is my normal sitting behavior because A, I'm pretty sure I have like restless legs. I've just never been diagnosed with it. And B, I have chronic back pain. So I have to move around my body and shift in my seat because my back fucking hurts all the time. So I move my body so it doesn't fucking hurt, right? That doesn't mean I'm hiding something or that I'm trying to be deceitful or anything like that, or I'm nervous. Just like when people talk with their arms crossed, I know people who just talk with their arms crossed and they're not like anyone who would do that. That's just, but it also can be read as being defensive or whatever. I think there are times where it can be helpful, but I think it requires you to have, like, for example, either an overwhelming amount of information about the person or a direct interaction with the person. So like, I use this is a really good example that I hate that it's an example because of the situation that happened. And if I could undo the day for this kid, I would. Well, the day one of my clients was assaulted and they had come to me to talk to me for that counseling that day and just talking to them that day. I knew what this person looked like and responded to and how they responded on a normal day, how they were when they were angry because they had intermittent explosive issues, how they were with other things. But on this specific day, I knew something was wrong. I had a rough idea because I could just tell that the way they were behaving was probably consistent with something like an assault. I could not say that specifically yet, but I knew something was wrong. And I even told them to their face, I'm like, the girl who sat across from me yesterday is not the same one that sits across from me today. It's okay if something happened. I'm here to help. And eventually they talked to me, told me what happened, and they got the help they needed. But in that situation, I read it because I knew the person enough to be able to say it. It's hard to do like these discussions from like, I have no idea. I've never met Alex. I would know him from God or from Jesus or Paul or whoever, like, right? But with having listened and watched and some of the history, I can put some of the pieces together to say, hey, this looks kind of genuine and this doesn't. Just like with my client, I could say, hey, I know you're not okay. I know you look like something bad has happened, or looks like you've had something not okay be. Like, you're not okay. I know what you look like. Okay. I know what you look like not okay. And this is something we probably should talk about if you're what, I'm here for that. That's where I think it's a little different than like microanalyzing every little nuance thing. Like, I think that's hard. But for me, in that situation, would I call that reading their body language? Yes and no. One second. Second. I just responding to a message. Yeah, you gotta have a baseline. You gotta have a rough idea of what to expect. And like says, stuff like that is what makes me so worried about just being under suspicion. Who knows what you or I might do or say that looks guilty? That's the thing. Is I this is the thing that pissed me off. I don't know why. It was one of those things about this trial that I don't know why. It was something stupid, minor detail that made an excellent point for me, right? The state kept talking about how he went from his vehicle to checking on, like, he pulled up, left his vehicle, went and checked on Maggie and Paul, and came back and talked to 911, and it was like 19 seconds or something like that, right? And so the argument is, oh, it's 19 seconds because he already knew they were dead, and he was waiting to call 911. My argument is, it doesn't matter how long that time was, whether it was 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 60 seconds, the state would have still said, and the people thinking Alex is guilty would have still said, no matter how long that time period is, they would still find a way to spin it as him being guilty. A, it's kind of their job, but B, for the people who are watching who are not charged with the responsibility of prosecuting the case, I think that if it's 5 seconds versus 30 seconds versus 60 seconds, to me, they are all reasonable responses to seeing the scene. I pull up and I'm a layperson and I just see my family dead. I look up, I run up, oh my God, what happened? Run back, grab my phone, call 911. It takes 10 seconds. Maybe it takes 20 seconds. Like Alex said, he walked, he ran up, looked at Paul, went to try and turn him over, which to me makes sense, even though his head's missing part of it. We still have these things. If you've ever been trained to do CPR or do medical, you were trained, you have kind of like schemas, and you have like these collections of pre-prepared ways we do things. And so even though their head's missing, part of their head's missing and their brain's at their feet, you still will respond, with I'm going to check and see if they're breathing, even though it's obvious 2020 looking back, there's no way they're breathing. There's no way they're alive. You would still maybe roll them over to look at their face to see if they're alive. Because a lot of people want to look at the face of the person and A, confirm it's the person they think it is, and B, see if they're dead or not. Because we want that face. We want to look at that face. We need to know as a person who that is our loved one. So we look at their face, we go, oh my God, that's X. So yeah, it would make sense he would turn them over in the moment because you're traumatized by finding your family dead. It would make absolute sense to me to do that if you're not prepared to deal with trauma. If it was me, and I'm able to respond if it's not my family, but if I'm coming on that scene, I go, okay, I check, okay, there's no way he's alive. I go over and look, see if she's breathing. Okay, she's not breathing. Maybe I touched him once or twice, as minimal as possible, because I know what to do. And then it takes me 30 seconds or takes me 60 seconds because I was trying to assess for livelihood to see if they had any airway or if they were breathing at all. And so that took me a second or two longer. Does that still make me guilty because it took longer to assess, or was that me staging a few more things for the murder to make it look like I'm innocent? Because that's the mindset that I've been dealing with a lot of these people who have been in these arguments. Yeah, Murdaugh says the same thing with Bronco about the gun ammunition. It's always wrong kind. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Where'd it go? Jamie said something. We're going. Ken loves us. Oh, you bet your ass I do. Let's see. See, I actually disagree with you on this one. I'm sure the rapist will have some high-minded academic explanation how he's really the victim here. So I was going through some of my PDF files on my phone and some of my scholarly work I've downloaded because I like to keep track. I like to download anything I find that's scholarly and that's interesting. One of those I have stuff on because I talked about before. It's JSOs, juvenile sex offenders, right? So that's a very big portion of child offenses, right? Is juveniles being the offenders. Now they have the potential to be in the position of being both an offender and a victim. There are people who can be offenders and still have that mindset, or it depends on, there's a lot of things. Now, there are rapists who may not actually do that. It depends on their functioning level. The thing is, there's different. I would say there's 1,000 different ways a rapist can have the thought process. Why they did it. Was it for sex? Was it for power? Because most rapes aren't for sex. They're Tracy can back me up on this one. There's a lot of research that shows rapes and sexual assaults are a power dynamic at play. And sex is used as a tool to do that. That's like what the hell, Michael Palmer that's popped in and out of Nick's chat and has been, I think Twisted blocked him from here, from my chat a while back, does not understand the concept that most offenders against children aren't actually sexually attracted to children, which blows people's minds, and it doesn't make sense to them because they're stuck in the kind of loop of, well, if they're doing that to kids, they must like kids. No, they're doing it as an expression of power or for a bunch of different reasons that isn't necessarily an attraction. And so, just use that as an example. There's different reasons people do things. So a rapist could have 1,000 different things that could do it, and the mindset could be as a simpleton, someone who is very low IQ, and is doing it for different behaviors. High IQ person doing it for different reason, average person doing it for different reason. The mindset's different. I don't think you can fit it into one profile. So let's see what's something. So his head came off. Is this yeah, but is it breathing? They have to ask anyway because people can say shit like that. Like I have several friends who are 911 operators, and they're very good 911 operators. They have to ask certain questions because people might say that and be misstating it, or they're reacting in trauma. You ask very specific and very direct questions, because if they say that and it's not actually what happened, and you don't assess if they're breathing, because if they're not breathing, but they could still be breathing, or you could assist them until you clarify their brain's on the floor, then I don't know that. Like, you have to pretend, you have to, because people, most people, the first time they call 911 is probably the first time they've ever done it, and they're having the worst day of their life if they're calling 911 usually, right? So you have to be very specific, very direct, and sometimes very hard on people. Like, you have to yell at sometimes, like, be very aggressive in some ways. Like, I need you to do this. You need to do this to make sure they live. I need you to put, it's going to hurt. You're going to need to squeeze really tight. You got to squeeze tight to hold the pressure. Like, and, sometimes you'll hear those 911 calls like, damn, that 911 operator was a dick. They were doing it to try and make sure the person helped keep their friend or spouse or loved one or whatever alive until fire EMS gets there. So as so stupid as it sounds to hear that question being asked, there are purposes for that, right? It sounds weird, but it does make sense. Jamie says, my suggestion, I'm interested in difference analysis between someone trying to catch you versus someone trying to help you, not by language itself. Interesting. I think I see what you're saying here. That's an interesting concept. So like how I and Tracy might view it versus how the body language panel would view it, and then comparing the two. Is that what you mean? Like how I'm looking at it from the help perspective, right? I wonder if it ever came out that the real murder was found, would people justify Alex going to jail with he deserved it anyway? Oh, absolutely. People are justifying in Facebook groups right now his murder in prison or his suicide or his being Epsteined in prison kind of thing. People are justifying that in Facebook groups as we speak. And it's sad. They do not care. They have, like I said, Alex Murdaugh is guilty until proven guilty, and now he's been proven guilty, so he will always be guilty in their mind. There's no changing that. It's disgusting, but it is the way it is the way it is. Um, uh, Phil, send me a DM. I'll message you or talk to you after the show's over. So we can voice chat if you need to, or we can DM if that's better. But yeah, I can talk to you. Just let me know. Like I said, I'm trying to be better about balancing my trying to fix my fucking Facebook and Discord notifications. I'm driving my car, man. Calm down. What is the street address? Actually, that's actually not necessarily wrong. I need to know where you ran off the road at so I know where to send help. So as stupid as it sounds, like I need to know where you're at so I can send help. Where are you at? Where did you run off the road at? Mile marker 55. Okay, cool. Or we were passing exit 57. Okay, cool. And I need you to calm down so I can have you listen and make sure you're paying attention to what I'm fucking telling you. It sounds stupid. Yeah, dude, there's some bad calls, man. You want to talk to a 911 operator, have them talk to you. Like they probably won't tell you much, but a 911 operator dealing with like a mass casualty incident probably is going to be a bad day, or something like really specific. Like I know there was a 911 call I heard, like a kid managed to like call 911, but like a parent got murdered or something. The kid wasn't killed. Something like shit like that, where like or like talking through someone on the phone. They're like someone's trying to kill them, and maybe they aren't able to get out and survive. Like they get killed on the phone. Like 911 operators have a really difficult job. Like I think my job can be hard some days, but man, that's just like at 10 all the time. Yeah, you get people calling over stupid shit, but when the shit hits the fan, like the shit hits the fan. Like you gotta have your game face on, because seconds literally count to save lives when you're on a 911 call. How long it takes you to get dispatch out, how long it takes you to get fire, to get the dispatch out to, because if it's a volunteer department, they gotta they gotta page them, they run the siren, how long it takes to get to the station, get geared up, get on the truck, get out to the accident scene. When you're talking 10, 15 minutes, the sooner you get that out there, the sooner you get them help. It really depends. Even paid departments can take time getting out the door. Um, uh, I mean, you can have some really bad shit. They, I don't know what you mean, Phil, by these people do not like me. I don't know who you're talking about. So I don't know what that means. If you could clarify, I'd appreciate it. But if you want to DM me that instead, that's fine. Maybe I don't understand. So if I'm missing that, please let me know. I'll be happy to clarify. Maybe I'm just, like I said, I've been a little out of it too, so that doesn't help. Uh, Okay. Sorry, I thought I saw something pop up on my messages here. Oh, got from working out. What I just you missed a bit. We've been an interesting show. Also, I don't want to do that to Phil. Say, I don't. It feels a little shit faced. I don't want to put him up in public. So here, Phil, why don't you do this? Here, all I'll do is, Phil, you're in my Discord, right? Let's see here. I think you're in the Discord, Phil. So yeah, let me, or are you in your Discord right now? Anyway, let me wrap this up and I'll talk to you after we're done. So any final thoughts on the Murdaugh stuff? Any topic, jury psychology questions, anything like that? I know we're a little over 3 hours now, so let me see if I'll have to put together some fun ideas for the next stream or two. That might be fun. So I like the idea that what is it? Jamie suggested. That might be a fun stream. So I'm trying to be a good guy, so I would think I'm a good guy unless I'm getting told I'm not. If I'm getting messages I'm not, then maybe I did make a mistake somewhere. I don't know what it was. But I try to be a good guy. So I mean, I'm no perfect person. I've been pretty honest about that. But like I was saying before, when it comes to this, if I'm in these shoes, I want people to give me the same benefit I'm giving them. So to me, I don't think Alex is getting that fair shake. Say, I'm trying to stream regularly. I like to stream. Like I said, the mentals have kept me a little down. I've just got a lot on my plate recently, and so it makes it a little difficult to balance my time. I've had some flare-ups in my pain. That definitely does not help at all. So that definitely can throw me for a loop and make it difficult to even get out of bed. Trying to put all my energy into, the shit I have on my plate right now has been difficult at a minimum. Maybe more than that at worst. Say, I don't know who you're talking about, Phil, with that, but yeah, thank you for the comments. Also, make sure you guys are checking out Tracy's stuff. I know Tracy's been, I don't want to say filling in the gap that I've left because she's got her own good content. So check her out. Call Me the Chaos. Make sure you check out her stream. Let me grab her link. Tracy, if you have your link ready, drop it in the chat. If not, I'm going to drop it for you. If I could spell. Did I do it right? Did I do it right? I did it right. Okay. I can drop it in the chat. Yeah, drop it in the chat. No. Drop it in the chat. So make sure you guys check out her shit. Calming the Chaos. She's got like 430 subscribers right now. She's got like 140 videos. She's a bit more professional than I am. I think a bit's being underselling it. She's probably more professional than I am when talking about stuff. So if you don't like the laid backish approach I take, that's fair. It is a unique style. I'll be the first to say that, but I like it. because I'm pretty much no different than I am with clients when I do this. Maybe a little less swearing. I do swear with some clients that are okay with it because it happens. Like I say, I'm military. It slips out sometimes. I can't help it. I try not to, but it does happen sometimes. Or in certain situations, it's used as an important tool, so the swearing is appropriate because it's a therapeutic tool. You're more professional than I am, Tracy. You and I both know that. Don't. I'm the less professional of the two. There's been like the biggest complaint I saw, like when I had that huge influx during the Darrell Brooks trial, the lack of professionalism and the drinking, and because I was doing a drinking stream that day, and the fact that I was having a conversation and I wasn't being like a professional analyzer about it. Like, fuck that. That's not what I do. I sell this a certain way because I want to do a stream on sex. I'll do it soon. What kind of stream on sex? That would be a fun stream. I love sex streams. Not just the ones I do on OnlyFans, but like the other sex streams. Like, what kind of sex streams do you have in mind? But definitely, yeah. A sex stream would be cool. I guess what was it? I really need to do hey, don't say gross to my OnlyFans. There's like onlyfans.com/Ken's Casting Couch. There's onlyfans.com/Ken's Trap Couch. There's another one too, but that one's my premium Snapchat kind of thing. So I really wish I could get verified so I could have my OnlyFans where I post nothing but big black couches. I just want to post BBC. That's all I want to do. They will not verify me. I've tried for more than once to get verified. But honestly, yeah, sex is gross. Who has sex? That's disgusting. A really cool stream would be controversial, but a really cool stream would be to do lifespan development psychology stuff as it relates to sexuality. I think that would be fun because it would be very controversial, but it would be very entertaining and very informative too, because a lot of people will understand how sexual development works through the ages. And there's probably one of the biggest misconceptions that people have, and it causes a lot of issues with like false accusations of assault, because of sexual abuse and stuff, because people don't understand what is normal sexual behavior at different ages of development. So that's something that, I mean, I didn't know until I was I think it was my first degree when I took I think it was a class on sexuality. Learning some of this, I knew some of it, but like really getting into the nitty-gritty, like it's really amazing some of the things that we learn. Dr. John Baloney's content. I don't know who that is. Let's see. Is that like a sex and relationships kind of content, or just like general sex? Because yeah, drinking Ken is fun, Ken. I can be fun when I drink. I just have to be careful, because if I drink too much, it's a bad thing. It can be a bad day. Definitely a bad day if I drink too much. I try not to drink too much for that purpose. So, where'd it go? Okay. Yeah, some interesting ideas about sex and relationships. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's definitely different than what I have in mind. Because, see, Tracy has like the streams that apply to life and can be helpful. Mine can be out there weird shit that is unique. But I like my streams. I like my content. So, let's say Ken is already fun. Drunk Ken is another animal. When can we do another Cards Against Humanity stream again? I don't know. Um, I'd have to think about another card stream because those can go a lot longer than I intend to. So I'd have to really think about that one. I'd like my next one to be another sort of kind of relatable stream to whatever. I'm trying to do streams that are kind of touching on kind of current topics to try and grab the algorithm while I can. Because me being inactive for a while has really killed my numbers. Like my stream numbers are pretty bad. I need to try and jump on and as a guest on some other content streams when I can. To try and re-promote my stream. Because, like I said, not streaming will really fucking kill your numbers if you don't do it consistently. So that has not helped, you know. And I'm at fault for that. I take ownership of that. Like that's my fault for not streaming. So, but I think what I need to do is let me just check another. Let me scroll down a little bit more on this stupid Facebook group and see if there's any more like really out there comments that just really pissed me off. Because some of them were like, dude, I could not. Actually, let me check. Where is it? Gallery, screenshots. Where'd it go? Screenshots. Oh, definitely the wrong folder. Hold on. Let's see here. Also, I don't know if anyone would be interested in this, but I read a case. It's the Baby M case, I think it's called, from South Carolina, where basically they found in South Carolina, or not South Carolina, it was New Jersey, and it's the Baby M case from New Jersey, where they effectively found that surrogacy contracts effectively amounted to slavery and nullified them. It was like the first case on gestational surrogacy or something like that, and it was insane what happened in that case. Like, holy shit. It helped it kind of negatively impacted surrogacy law in the US for a bit, but since then most states have been okay with gestational surrogacy, which is the surrogate gets an implanted embryo that has a donor egg and donor sperm fertilized together, whereas traditional surrogacy is donor sperm using the egg of the surrogate. So most states are cool with it, but it's how the custody works is really weird. Like the parental rights is really weird. So like in the case I'm talking about with the Baby M, is like the surrogate actually kind of kidnapped and took off with the kid for a while, but the Supreme Court of New Jersey eventually ruled that the surrogate mother was to have some form of parental rights and was given visitation with the kid, even though the kid was I think it was, I can't remember if it was a traditional or gestational surrogacy for this, but like the kid was like she had visitation rights for this kid, and it was crazy. I couldn't like believe what I was reading with some of it. Hold on, actually, I think I found some screenshot from this thing where people were manipulating my feelings. I talked about how I felt Alex was being suicidal, and I said how he talks about he felt that way at the time of shooting, but doesn't feel that way anymore, which sounded like he was improving, like he had gotten actual mental help. And someone said, if you truly worked as a therapist, which I don't believe, then you would also know the signs of manipulation. Alex is nothing but manipulation. And someone else said, or he, meaning me, was manipulated, which I don't expect him to admit to. Look at parole boards. You can say that they're giving those murderers, rapists, child molesters another chance. But what I see, and has been proven time and time again, the parole board was manipulated by a smooth talking narcissist with a fabulous planned out act. And like this went on and on. Like multiple people just dogpiling on me. It was nuts. I could not believe someone would like speak to me that way and like just I mean I kind of can. I mean I kind of know what I was getting myself into with this fucking group. It was bad. What else is in here? Someone was talking about the judge at one point. This is with what day was this? This is in February. They said, I almost wonder if he, the judge, is getting paid by the family because I don't feel he's doing a very good job. Of course, this is before the judge is ruling a lot in favor of the state. This person said, someone whose family is slaughtered without their help has zero reason to lie. I absolutely disagree with that one. It all comes down to an innocent person doesn't lie. I disagree with that one. What else is in here? Someone said people who are, this is talking, I think, about his cross exam, maybe. People who are lying often repeat a question, not that because they don't understand, but to give themselves time to come up with an answer. That's a common thing that you teach people to do when you're being on the witness stand, is to rephrase the question if you're not sure of the answer, so you have time to think of it. That's not just about lying. What else is in here? Murdaugh's answers on the stand are that of an indiscriminate liar. The way he speaks, moves, pauses, adjusts himself, stalls, and even the manner in which he uses his voice show him to be a sociopathic narcissist. His fake, quote, down-home way of presenting himself and humbly admitting his guilt is nauseating. The way he picks apart and dances around the prosecutor's questions scream, quote, liar and master manipulator. All of this casts a very dark cloud on whatever he has to say about his actions leading up to and including the crime of murdering his family. See, I told you this shit was intense. What else do we got in here? Wrong thing. Let's see. Here's some comments. Let's say here. This person said, you can absolutely fake or encourage any known behavior. There are lots of PTSD phonies out there collecting disability as a scam, supposedly professionally diagnosed too, which is different than exhibiting signs of trauma response on the stand, being and in court. Like that's just different. Let's see what else. There's some fucking crazy shit I've talked to a few people about. Where's some good ones here? Distancing language, excess detail where it doesn't matter, vagary where it does, squeezing out emotion, perception management, outright lying. Am I missing anything? Yeah, you are, because you're putting a bias into those things. See here. Alex is consistent. Someone said this, and I kind of agree with him. I think Alex is consistent in his mannerisms and speech patterns. A difficult accomplishment for a liar, damn near impossible. Let's see. Oh, this is relating to something else. This is talking about Rittenhouse, the Rittenhouse case. They said, talking about how the judge was apparently biased. They said, sue the damn jury for voting that Kyle Rittenhouse was not guilty. Sue the jury, because we could totally do that. That's how that works. People have some of the craziest takes on this shit, right? I know. Thank you, Tracy. They think they know it all. It's insane. I'm pretty sure this is a person who was in a group involving one of our favorite friends of the channel. They said the people in this group, in some of these groups, are ruthless if you don't agree with what they agree with. I had to leave a group yesterday, my choice, with the initials TCK, which I think stands for the critical K, but I'm not sure. The main person in the group was giving me so much crap for having my own thoughts and opinions. She's also saying how rude people in the South are, and she would never cover another trial in the South. I don't know if that's the case, but that sounds, there's a kind of correlation there. Someone said, who thinks Buster removed the bloody clothes when he packed clothes for his dad? And they also think Buster was complicit in the murder and helped his dad kill his brother and mother, but Buster was 2 hours away. when he got called from his dad saying that his mom and sibling was dead. But yeah, Buster's totally complicit. Just the thought process on some of these, like, who really shoots a weapon holding it below their waist? Someone who's trying to make it appear someone else did. Alex Murdaugh was an avid hunter and was quite adept with handling weapons. Someone said cowboys, at least in the old westerns, however, they have pistols, not shotguns. Someone else said all the time was shooting below their waist. Then another person said to make it look like someone short did it. Uh, holy shit. Let's see here. What else? No, not that. It's all 3D printer screenshots. Let's see. Here we go. A not guilty verdict doesn't mean he's actually not guilty. It would mean that the jury screwed up. Unfortunately, it happens all the time. That's why we are so-called system in America is commonly referred to as the American injustice system. Enough said. You guys will defend just about anybody if the price is right, even the truly guilty, which of course is very sad. Not sure how you all sleep at night. Also, I was accused of being a paid Murdaugh shill because I said that it's possible Alex is innocent. That was funny. Let's see what else is in here. What's this one? Oh, it's a thing. We know that from testimony that Alex is a smart lawyer and gifted with the ability to understand people and manipulate them. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he picked that shirt tonight because he knew it had prior bloodstains on it that could be explained away if they did eventually zero in on him. He tried to control everything else. He just never accounted for Paul making that video that placed him at the scene. Right? Like I said, the way people take these pieces of information and apply them to the case are insane. Seriously, like think about it. This is not Reddit involved. This is Facebook. This is a private Facebook group. I'm not telling you what I'm in. I probably mentioned it before, but it's fucking crazy. It's related to one of the channels that streams the shows. That's all I'm gonna say. The trials and shit. People like the Murdaughs have hidden rooms / safe rooms where they stash cash and jewelry and ammo. I'm willing to bet there's a hidden room somewhere near the bathroom where he showered. Here's my thought. Alex is a sole shooter. The rifle is strapped over his shoulder, cross-body, so he can carry the two different firearms to make it seem like more people were there. The weird kill shot angle had the rifle secured by the strap, but oddly lowered because of his other hand being full. Kitty doesn't seem to have the issue with the angle. He is the expert. It's just Harpootlian trying to fling monkey poo. Also remember, Alex told Maggie's sister that the killer, quote, planned this for a long time, wondering if Alex intentionally fooled with different angles to throw them off that a really tall guy shot them. The last silhouette, let's see, it involves a picture that I can't show. Let's see, they were worried that it might be an OJ situation. It turned out not to be the case. Let's see what else. Like, these are just screenshots I've taken casually, not focusing on getting a bunch of good ones, just casually. As I've fucking been paying attention to this. And it's nuts. Where'd it go? Yeah. I think is that all of them? I think that's before the trial started here. Okay, now I'm starting to get into other shit. Yeah, I think that's everything. Oh, no, here we go. There's more. I think there's a hidden compartment in the lawn area with the guns and clothes he wore during the murder. The police should investigate, especially with Maggie being shot first, leaving Alex over the divorce, and called Paul to help her pack her bags, but Alex shot Maggie for leaving and ruining the family image. Then, while Paul was crying over his mom being shot, Alex shot him to get rid of witnesses. Alex had the AR gun on him with the strap on his body while having the shotgun in his hand. That's how he used two guns. This person was criticized, and someone said, "Yeah, you're just a psychic. You know exactly what happened." The reply was, "Correct. I also know more details than the public are aware of, and I don't find murder funny for the victims or their family." So this person knows more than what's available publicly. Let's see here. More sounds like the defense is trying to manipulate us into believing otherwise. A good defense attorney is a master manipulator. Defense counsel seems to be grasping at straws at anything he doesn't have a case. So they're always shitting on the defense and always saying the defense is doing a horrible job. They're grasping at straws. They have no idea what they're doing. But the state's always on top of their shit. They never fuck anything up. Whatever the state and the judge say is always the right call. It's never can be criticized. Like, they can only be perfect. It's just out there. Well, I know I know it's an expression, but shooting from the hip with a pistol is different than shooting at the hip with a shotgun and an AR style rifle, in my opinion. So, imagine the exculpatory evidence your adversaries would require were it only up to them. Oh yeah, you would have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt every second of your day. Like, as much as I hate it, part of the reason I don't mind Google keeping track of my location is it knows exactly where I'm at every second of the day. Like, unless my phone dies. But if my phone dies, that must mean I'm doing something awful. Or if I'm not on my phone, it must mean I'm killing someone or that I'm dead. That's got to be the only reasonable explanation for it. Yeah. That's the kind of mindset. Is they will only factor in the information that benefits the argument to his guilt. They will not look at that and go, there's reasonable doubt built inside of that statement in itself. If he was there to kill, like, what would be the purpose, for example, of going back to the house and chambering your shotgun in two different gauges of shotgun shells? That's stupid. That's dangerous. You would only, like, to throw the police off to make them think I'm upset. I wouldn't think to do that if I was upset. I'm not fucking that. That's like Trump 11th dimensional chess kind of stuff, right? Like the 4D, 5D chess that Trump was doing during the, like, that's the kind of thinking that these people are applying to shit like this. No one's thinking that far ahead. You have to, like, draw that shit on paper, write it down, plan out every action kind of shit, rehearse, think, like, could I possibly pull off a perfect murder? I could, but why? It'd be kind of fun to plan one as an exercise on stream. That would probably get the channel banned, but it'd be kind of fun. But no, it doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't add up. Like, what's the purpose? I understand he's a horrible person, but the lack of objectivity is probably the scariest part to me. I understand I'm not always objective. When I'm not objective, I'll admit to it. I have no investment in whether this guy goes to jail or not. The only thing I'm invested in is the protection of the rights of my fellow citizens. That's it. That's the only thing that matters to me. Him going to jail or not, as long as his rights were protected and his trial was fair, I do not care. He did wrong, fine. The jury of his peers did it, fine. But was his rights protected? And yeah, it was just to get a 3-week delay of the other trial. It totally worked. It was totally a good idea that they settled anyway. So it just doesn't add up to me. So it just. So someone here made a good comment. It's actually a good comment of the entire collection I've got here. A lot of assumptions and prejudgments here. Everyone acts different when losing someone. I try not to judge. The man lost his family, and what if he didn't do that? What is worth your family? It's hard to believe that someone would do that. But if he did, he deserves whatever he gets. Couldn't imagine him sleeping well either way. This is going to haunt him the rest of his life, guilty or not. And someone said, the man murdered his family. Don't you dare defend this horrible excuse for a man. See? Here's another one. He's clearly been coached. Watch all the pretrial hearings. The guy shows zero emotion. But now when he's in front of a jury, different story. On top of that, point out when he has moved his glasses to wipe his eyes or wipe the lenses with teardrops since his head is always down. Point out the sniffling, the teardrops rolling on his face. Also note, you can see him preparing for the act. Someone else commented, yes, you were totally on point. This is the first time I've seen any emotion from him at all. I could feel my blood pressure rising watching him start to rock in his chair. I pray he's put behind bars for life and suffers every single day. Then the OP said, well, most likely will, because even if he's exonerated for the murders, he's still facing 99 financial crimes, which is a total like 900 years. AM deserves an Academy Award for that fine display of acting. In my opinion, he's guilty as sin. He killed his own son and his wife in cold blood for money. He shot Paul, his own child, and watched his son's head explode. And he chased Maggie as she was running and gunned her down. Oh, and what about all the other deaths surrounding this entitled narcissist and other crimes he's been accused of? Just coincidence? I pray to God justice will be served for Paul and Maggie and anyone else Alex Murdaugh has hurt. You could see him trying to desperately work himself up to tears, and he can't pull off real tears. Another, like, just, they're insane. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly what I'm talking about. There's no way you can see him in a positive light. And to me, that's a failing of their character. That, if I'm going to judge anyone's character, that's a failing of their character. Here's another one. The tears and emotion is so contrived. The officer stated that he wasn't crying and emotional at the scene of the murders. Any innocent person would be literally be hysterical and inconsolable. He is an abhorrent, evil human. This person says Alex was asked by 911 dispatch if he could see where Paul had been shot, and at first he said he didn't know. What? Almost all of Paul's head had been blown apart, leaving only his face, and Alex had no idea where his son had been shot. OMG. Since Alex is a seasoned attorney, this is another one. Alex is a seasoned attorney. He knows exactly how to act in front of a jury. I guess I found more comments I didn't realize I had. It's not likely or required that the jurors know nothing about the case. The issue is if they can reach an unprejudicial judgment, i.e., do they know the defendant? Let's see. Let's see. Here we go. Let me see. What's this one say? Okay, hear me out. Just to have this thought. How in touch with reality and intelligence? They spelled intelligence wrong. Can any impartial juror that they found be? How can you live in that area and be so out of the loop with your local news that you've heard absolutely nothing about the case? This applies to all juries. Are we letting less intelligent people decide guilt or innocence? Is that how Casey Anthony got off? Pure stupidity of the jurors. Sorry, not sorry. This is what worries me with any of these cases. Their guilt is so glaringly obvious for most. This is also people in groups like this are like, Casey Anthony's innocent, which I still need to watch that stupid documentary and see if it was actually, because I won't watch it on whatever the fucking streaming service site is. So I need to go on the high seas to find it so I don't give them any views to then watch it, because I really want to see what that fucking documentary she put out was, because I really want to see how she justifies what happened. And again, she's presumed innocent. She was found not guilty by a jury for Pierce, but in that case, it sounded like shit was like, but apparently people, especially TCK, thinks that she, I think, was not guilty. Is one of her thoughts on that too. So, but I mean, it's just, it's just insane, the shit I've come across seeing all this. I never thought this case would be like this. Like, I did not think going into these groups would end up in this kind of commentary. Like, no, would never have guessed. Like, not in a million years. Like, that this would end up this way. Maybe I'm stupid for that. Maybe I'm, out of touch. But I just don't. Yeah, I don't. I don't know how someone could look at a fellow human being and always presume them guilty. It just doesn't add up for me. Like, don't get me wrong, people do some horrible shit, but to always look at them with guilt. It's not my style though. Not at all. I think that's all the screenshots I have. I'm just double checking now. Like I said, I took a few. I guess I had more than I thought. There's definitely more shit. Like, I have to find that full commentary from the person who was like, I don't want to say like gaslighting me, but kind of like talking me into that. It was pretty bad. I'll have to find it and we'll review it next week or next time I stream. But it was interesting, to say the least. So let's see here. Did I get through all of these? I think I did. Yeah, I think that's all my screenshots. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all my screenshots now. So, okay. That's all I got for today. Any other comments, thoughts? Doc says it was mostly pretty fair, but the judge made some really stupid rulings that ought to come up on appeals. The rulings are also relating to the way the state handled things. So the state did some sketchy shit, and the judge did some kind of sketch shit with how they ruled regarding those inappropriate behaviors by the state. Also, the fact that the indictment was brought under false pretenses was also bad, in my opinion. Yeah, there was some issues with the impartiality, in my opinion, of the judge, and issues with the. I think that state probably took the publicity a bit too much to their head. So yeah, I'm starting to lose my voice a bit here, talking for 3.5 hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you like it and you want to support me, you can always drop a chat. Do a super thanks after the stream's over on the video, or join me on my locals, Ken's Council and couch.locals.com. If you want to join me over there, it gets you access to my Discord, where we're going to try really hard to get back getting in there. Like I said, I've been kind of depressed a bit, so it kind of kept me out of talking to people. But I'm going to try and get back into it because I do like talking with my viewers and supporters. So I appreciate every penny that you guys give me. So take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. It is Sunday. Yeah, it's Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And let me find my outro video, because where the fuck is it? Wait, is this my outro video?
Mr. Connery, why don't you pick?
It looks like this is my lucky day. I'll take the rapists for 200.
That's Therapist. Sean.
Oh shit, that was the wrong one. My bad. Wrong outro. My bad. That's the wrong one. Wait, where'd it go? Wait, where's it at? Where's that?
FBI, open up!
Shit, not that one. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And also, if you have show ideas like who was it? Jamie Gray. If you can, comment your show idea in the comment section after the stream ends. So it'll pop up in my notifications on YouTube, so I'll remember it, because I won't remember it if I don't have like a comment or something I can pin, and it'll show up in my notifications to remember to do for a show idea, so that way I can communicate with Tracy if she's up for it, if you're still watching. So all right, actually, let me see if I can. I'll find a way to save it. Anyway. Okay, outro time. Where'd it go? Not that one. And have a great weekend. Bye.
limit, 'cause it's not that work it, quick erase it. Try to forget it, 'cause it's a limit.